researcher, political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hello, how are you doing? It's 6 minutes after 6 on this 31st day of August 2021. It's the last day of the month. Can we just call it a Friday?
Hey, it would be so nice if we call it a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
It would really be good.
Just say it's the Friday of August.
First,
Friday signifies end of week.
So random.
There's this song that you know.
I know.
Yes.
Okay. That's a good way to start.
The first day of Christmas, my baby said to me,
My baby.
isn't that what it said?
True love.
What's the difference?
What did I say?
Baby. Oh, baby and true love. Oh, baby.
It's a wide world, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It is really madness. But that you're at Christmas.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. You're enjoying that.
No, it's Back to the Future.
All right. It's on the first day of Christmas my true love sent to me. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Okay.
Partridge in a pear tree.
This Mzungu sing of strange things.
I know, it's actually quite strange if you look at the history of that song.
Yes.
What's the history of that song?
Oh, Lord.
No, ignore that question.
I can see where it's going
and
already.
Go to the next one. This one doesn't have many marks.
So what was your next question? Next?
Choose the one which has 10 marks. This one has 2.
This one has 2 marks. How are you guys?
Good morning, Eric.
Fine, how
morning,
are you?
Mko sawa?
Good
Kabisa.
morning.
Very good. Just the other day we were celebrating a new year. And now we're into September.
Can you imagine?
Just like that.
Just like that.
We've started the bar months. September, October, November,
Embers.
December. Bus. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. So, after yesterday's conversation with the residents of Syokimau and complaints about the highway, did anything happen?
Nope.
Did you witness, watering of the road, everyone?
Story. Nothing. There was some documentation from Kenha talking about how as of 30th of August, they sent this out yesterday, saying that they then were committed to doing etc., did not happen.
So there's no etc.
So they're still they're still committed, etc., etc.
They're committed to etc. However, it did not happen, and it just seems another move to say we will do, but it didn't happen.
Oh. They're saying there'll be a day, this will be the year of restoration.
So they say.
The schedule below provides projected opening dates for the closed road section to ease the current traffic situation. JKIA to Mlolongo, September 10th. Westlands James Gishuru, September 30th. Haile Selassie UON roundabout, October 15th. And elevated section, the viaduct, is at 71.6% completion.
But you know what they've done? Is that they just told you all these people have talked about, all of this noise you've made, again, has been pushed to the side, and they're basically telling you, well, all right, we're going to continue what we've been doing, and the roads that have been closed will be open on said dates.
No. They've done something big. A multi-agency team has been established to guide on the traffic control intervention. This will include ensuring construction sites have adequate and well signposted lanes, rapid intervention cases of accidents, and well-defined U-turn points. This weekend, major works have been ongoing to manage the flow of traffic concentrated along the JKIA Mlolongo section. There has been recorded positive progress on the earthworks along this JKI Mlolongo section of the road. This section was earlier identified as one where motorists experienced extreme traffic congestion. Moreover, the contractor is committed to minimizing dust along the construction sites and the diversion through sprinkling often However, motorists are urged to avoid driving on the construction site and follow the designated diversions to avoid raising dust.
Do you see? It's not.
No, behave. If you behave, there'll be
no dust. You see? Turn it around. It's not.
You know, there's I used to think that you required a motorized vehicle, preferably one with 4 wheels, to raise dust. How wrong I was.
Mm-hmm. What did you now discover?
Well, I was lazily sitting in my rural establishment on the side of a road, and lo and behold, I saw a thin trail of dust in the air, and I thought maybe it was just the wind. You know these small little
whirlwinds.
Yes,
the
miniature ones, which normally visit rural areas. Yes. Actually, it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It was a motorbike and a bicycle. And they were raising dust. And I looked and I said, goodness. So what you need is for the road, for it to be dry. And all they're doing is raising whatever loose earth there is on top of it. That's as they move along.
Yeah.
Now, the speed at which they're moving was not anything alarming. Do you know why I mentioned this? The roads we're speaking of are not populated by motorcycles and bicycles. They're populated by vehicles. And all these vehicles are 4-wheeled or more. And there are many. How on earth do you expect them not to raise dust?
If they don't go onto the construction site and they remain on the other side that is being watered frequently.
Actually, they would actually do even better if they actually just kept the cars at home. Okay?
Yeah.
And didn't
And
move
allowed
them
the construction
so
to happen.
just continue while they walk to work. Then, you're right, there would be no dust.
Come back next year. Okay? In the meantime, stay where you are.
So they've joined the bandwagon of people who talk at problems, have they?
Imagine.
Oh, they've
Maybe
not
they're
joined.
always part of
Kenha.
it. They didn't join.
Hey, my
That
friend.
bandwagon, they help. They're the wheels.
Wait, fully paid up members?
I'm telling you, they've paid for next year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. So at this rate, they are strongly on the way to being life members.
Kenya National Talking Authority. Let's talk about COVID in numbers now that we talk very well.
Speaking about numbers, the country has now admitted that COVID-19 deaths are inaccurate.
Yeah.
Let's look at
So
those.
what they've been announcing more than the actual numbers. I wish.
The government has admitted that its daily statistics on COVID-19 deaths may be inaccurate due to the lack of pathologists in the counties. Susan Mochache, as you know, who is the PS Health, she told the parliamentary committee that the ministry can only confirm deaths that occur within hospitals and post-mortem exams of a few that happen within the community. People are dying in numbers that we cannot give evidence that the community death occurs as a result of COVID-19, but that is highly likely. But we cannot prove this because of pathology issues, and they're absent at the counties. Opio Wandani, who is
MP4.
chairing the PAC, said, I agree with the observations on the recording of deaths since we are not able to capture all community deaths. Mochache said that the country already is in the 4th wave of corona. Yes, as statistics have continued to indicate. However, even the numbers that we are testing on a daily basis probably is not an accurate picture of the country. I've been telling you people, it's not possible.
We have been agreeing with you, person.
She said, I can see the number of deaths rising in my own village. This is what Mochache said. And it's more than that, which we as a ministry are recording on a daily basis. So
Wait.
we would like to...
Wait. Go ahead. Before I ask this question. This is the PS Health.
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
So we would like to be able to give a full picture, but because of the lack of resources, pathology-wise, in the country, we're not able to do that.
Wait.
It's unfortunate, but that's the situation.
Isn't something wrong with that statement?
What's wrong?
PS Health is not supposed to be saying those things. It's us who are supposed to be saying those things.
So what should she say?
And add a seashell there.
Yes. Hey, is she not the accounting officer?
Yes.
Is she not the one who's supposed to make sure these things happen? But
Well,
from the
she's
sound
not
of that report, she has joined us. Oh, we don't have enough pathologists. Oh, hey, is there a report of what the ministry plans to do, please?
Oh, after they've told you this?
Yes.
No.
This is the PS.
They were telling the PAC the problem.
This was chairman of the board of a rural health center, who's just a villager who happens to live near the health center and is part and parcel of that community. This is the PS.
Now, if there's a shortage of trained pathologists, CT, what do you want to say?
What do we do?
They've discovered today that there's a shortage of
They've
trained
always
pathologists.
known
They've
that there's a
always
shortage
known.
of
And so
trained
why are they telling us
pathologists.
this now?
You've also always known. She's just reminding
Am I
you.
the PS Health?
She's just reminding you. She's talking to you as
Can I
Opio Wandai, the
exacerbate
chair of the
situation
public
just
accounts.
a little bit?
Please.
She said that there are only 4 officers, 1, 2, 3, 4, who conducts examinations.
We don't only have 4 pathologists in the country.
Wait, now let me finish, CT. And they are in the Ministry of Health headquarters in where?
Nairobi, Johansson Odor, and 3 others.
You know that information? You get the impression that there are only 4 pathologists in the country. It's not true.
Only those
we
who
do not have.
Only those who conduct such examinations.
And why are they the only ones who conduct? Are they the only ones trained in conducting these things? No, they are not.
Who are the others?
The government. What CT is saying? The government should hire more.
CT is saying
The government has more.
there are more government pathologists than the ones that were being told
How
about.
many more do you have?
Which ones?
I only see this one man, Johansson Odor. Government Johansson,
Headquarters,
Dr. Johansson,
when,
Mystery murder,
Go
whatever.
anywhere.
We only hear Johansson Odor.
Turkana,
Odor.
Johansson Odor.
He has
so
to
if there are
travel for
more than
days.
one government
Look,
pathologist, how come we don't see?
the University of Nairobi College of Health Science, otherwise known as the medical school, has a department of pathology. They train pathologists every year. That department has not shut down since the day it was started.
However,
These
these individuals are not hired or they're not under the employ of the government of Kenya.
Maybe they are, but they just conduct their ordinary
They don't
post-mortem.
conduct this kind of examination.
Still, look,
Ile ya post-mortem, ile ya kuangalia, kufungua, kupasua mwili, kufanywa upasuaji, kuangalia chanzo cha kifo. Sema it was a blunt object, blah, 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 it's okay. This one.
They're only 4.
18 minutes after 6. Are you online? Are you 4 of you? Wherever you are, good morning. Let's see who is online shortly after we take a break and see how the weather is going to look like in Nairobi and other parts of the country, plus other parts of the world. Those who are listening in South Africa actually can tell us their weather.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then we'll tell everybody else. Good morning, 18 after 6.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko anaenda huku na huku.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hey, it's getting hot in here.
The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody...
Have you seen them? Am I lying?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
the compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Evan Nosingishi was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is.
Expecting
weather
clear
with
conditions in Nairobi at 15 today, highs of 25. Rain showers in Nyeri, going to highs of 23 and lows of 14. 15 degrees and partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 14. We'll see lows of 12 in Eldoret. It's clear currently at 12, going to highs of 23. 28 will be the high in Kisumu. It's raining at 19. 18 degrees and rainy in Kakamega as well. Highs of 28 and lows of 15. We'll see highs of 30 in Mombasa today. Clear currently at 23. Clear conditions in the warmer Malindi at 26. Highs of 29 and lows of 25. Mostly cloudy conditions at 20 in Kampala with highs of 28. It'll come down to lows of 19. It's mostly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 22. Highs of 30. Highs of 23 in Johannesburg. It's clear at 13. It'll come down to lows of 8 today. Mostly cloudy conditions at 25 in Lagos. Highs of 30 and lows of 25. 23 will be the low in Kinshasa. It's clear at 24, going to highs of 32. We'll look at highs of 28 going out east into Beijing. It's currently sunny at 25. 15 degrees and cloudy in Paris, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Cloudy conditions at 14 in London, highs of 19 and lows of 14. And still Monday night in New York, there's a flash flood warning at 26. It'll go to highs of 28 and down to lows of 23 through the day.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay. Now, Washira Wilfred says, "Hey guys, I'm coming to Nairobi for the first time.
Since?
Ever.
That is good.
Eric, please send somebody to tea room to hold my hand. I must see this Mombasa road you talk about every day. Okay? So please get that in line." Donald Namema says,
Tea room is in Mombasa Road.
Yes.
Okay. Sijui mimi hiyo.
Especially if you know where Kenneth Matiba Road is.
Okay. So, Raphael Conrad Mwembe says he also wants to sing this Christmas song and said, "On the second day of Christmas, my baby gave to me the keys to a CLK Mercedes." All right. Willie Waria says Ndakaini is tuned in this morning. Torres Black is tuning from Turkana. Yay! Patrick Ellie tuning from Maseno. And Jatello Vic says, "Good morning, guys. Blessed to be alive. That's for sure." George Ogola says, "These conversations give me reason to listen to radio every morning." Sante. Kudos, lady and gentlemen. Good morning to you and Karibu Sana. Delias Obunge tuning from Kisumu this morning. Sentongo Agri tuning from Kampala in Uganda. And Evelyn Kayava tuned in this morning, says, "Morning on board for the last day of the month of August. That's for sure. Very happy." Oluwashindara Heniola tuned in from Lagos. Good to have you in the room this morning. Jamaica is tuned in, and that's Leslie, granddaughter. Kev Santana is also tuned in this morning. Excuse me, got a frog in my throat. Everybody else who's tuned in this morning, Mirando Ken tuned in from Gatina Checkpoint, and Fora Forite is tuned in as well. Dave says, "Wonder where the pathologist Kirasi Olumbe went. Was sure he was the only one in the trade." Well, apparently not. Saharan is tuned in this morning from Kisumu as well. And Jimmy Githai says, "Locked. The best way to start your day." Asante Sana for joining us. I can see all of you, can't get to all of you though, but we're so grateful that you're with us this morning.
Good morning, City. Today's proverb.
He who has never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
This is from where?
What?
He who has not traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
It's true.
This is a Kikuyu proverb.
Waru, waru, waru.
No.
It's actually a Kikuyu proverb. This is from where?
My sources say it's Kenyan.
Kenyan?
Yes.
Okay.
But you proved my point. So
It's Kenyan.
Kenyan. It's also
It must be home.
It's Mount Kenya.
and it's African also.
Yes, it's an African one. Okay. Shoroge Moai, just write how you pronounce. You say that in Kikuyu.
So,
The papers.
Okay.
The Standard e-paper. Do you have a telecom line with you? If you have a telecom line, you can access the Standard e-paper and read with us. Read with us. Hey, that book. Star 550 star 1 hash. You'll be able to read the Standard e-paper for 5 shillings. For 20 shillings daily. Star 550 star 1 hash. And if you'd like the Nairobian, it's star 550 star 2 hash. All this is deducted from your airtime daily. All right, now let's talk about the papers.
Let's do that. Okay, so so many things going on. Politicians take 2022 battle to the church, and this is on the front page of the Nation today. There's a lot of chatter about the separation of church and state, unease and muted protests from some religious leaders as top politicians turn the pulpit into a campaign platform, blurring the line that separates state from church. However, for some pastors, it is harvest time, as these heavyweights don't come empty-handed. So, of course, you come, you grace us with your presence, but then you bring a fat basket for us all to eat from. It's frowned upon by some, and others are saying, well, what's the big deal here? Deputy President, of course, William Ruto, Orange Democratic leader Raila Odinga, Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi, and his Wiper Democratic Movement counterpart Kalonzo Musyoka all made political pronouncements from the pulpits of different churches on Sunday, making light of the COVID-19 public gathering restrictions that have made it difficult to hold campaign rallies in the open. Politicians have brazenly shifted their 2022 vote hunting missions to churches, totally blurring the line that separates politics and religion. So predictable are these weekly church addresses that it has become the norm for the biggest political stories of the day to emerge from the pulpits just as they would in public rallies. The Anglican Church of Kenya Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit says the worrisome quote-unquote trend must stop. We must safeguard the safeguard the pulpit for its sole purpose, which is worship. Sadly, we've collapsed the boundaries between the pulpit and the pews, the profane and the sacred. We must rededicate ourselves to protect the sanctity of our sanctuaries and refuse to hand microphones to politicians inside the church. Let them do their politics out there. And he was very clear about this. He's not alone. PCEA, that's the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, only 2 months ago also tried to gag the politicians, but failed. In July, PCA Secretary General Robert Wahenya said in a statement that the altar would not be used by politicians to advance their interests. Politicians should be given a forum on our pulpits to conduct politics, but should not be given a forum, but should instead attend services like everybody else and do your politics out there. Ole Sapit, however, admits that it's difficult to enforce such a rule while churches have tried but failed time and time again in the recent past. The sad thing is that pastors have now realized that this is harvest season, which it actually is. It is harvest season in the church, but clearly it's also political harvest season for votes. They will use the chance to invite politicians in the pretext of greeting the congregation, but it never just ends at that, and they will want to politic. The Jubilee administration's closeness to the church has been documented as being in stark contrast with the past abrasive relationship between the church and state during the 90s. Constitutional reforms clamour. Back then, the church supported the opposition to fight for multi-party democracy during President Daniel Arap Moi's one-party rule. But clearly now, the embrace is tighter and it is closer and it is more frequent. And so the church seems to be stuck. What do? We know that we want to maintain and regain the sanctity of the sanctuary. But here we are, and we, short of, taking the mic out of their hands, we're left with little in terms of an option.
And I don't understand. Where's the problem exactly?
I'm actually also thinking the same thing.
Let them come.
Well, if the congregation of a church allows somebody to speak to them from the pulpit, it's them.
I mean, why are they pitching a fit now? It's not as though politicians started speaking with the pulpit yesterday or the day before. This has been happening from... I mean, I can't... Look. As far as...
You can remember.
Yes. This is something that politicians have been doing all along. The person who popularized going to church every Sunday was the former president Daniel Arap Moi. He went to church every Friday, every Sunday. Hey, did I say Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay.
Tells you.
I get it.
Friday today.
It's Friday today. And he was instrumental in helping put up very many churches, Harambes, what have you. And in Moi's time, you saw some of the most unlikely people going to church.
Yes.
When I say unlikely, I mean unlikely. People you don't expect to see in a church but that's where the president went, and so they also went. And religiously every Sunday.
But Moi never spoke at the pulpit.
Thank you. I was going to say, I don't recall a single day that the president went to the pulpit to speak. Not one day. Now, this we have with us.
Come and say a word to the congregation.
Please come and greet. Does the politician insist? Does he force the hand of the prelate? The answer is no. So, this narrative of the prelates being upset about this matter, change that tune a little bit.
So what they're doing essentially is that they're beckoning pastors to not make that invitation. That's what's happening.
No.
Ole Sapit, for example, is talking to his colleagues and saying, please not do this. Let's not do this.
You know, he is the Archbishop.
Yes.
Okay? There is a lot he can do beyond just telling you not to admit that person. Okay?
What else can he do?
Can suspend you. Can give you lighter duties. Can transfer you.
Sure, then those are only among his diocese, for example. But then he's talking to his people in other congregations, in other affiliations as well.
That's not going to work.
Encouraging, please don't do this.
Not going to work.
What's the problem, though, with the people standing and speaking in church?
I personally...
Should they go happy?
I actually
don't...
No.
Yes, now that's what they're saying. They shouldn't do it outside.
No, I'm not going to be part of this hypocrisy. The word of God as preached in Christian churches is for sinners, and these politicians are certainly sinners. There's no question about it.
And so let the sinners preach.
They don't preach. They just come and tell you how they go about their business, and you allow it. If the congregation didn't allow it, you would know they would not allow it, because that person would stand up there and they would never stand up before a congregation again. So,
Kenyans, we like pointing fingers everywhere.
Yes, so that's why I said I'm not getting involved in this hypocrisy.
Let's discuss this later.
Yes.
27 minutes to 7 o'clock, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are in the Situation Room. Let's take a look at the traffic. Mombasa Road. Hope things are not so bad. Thika Road was crazy yesterday. Hope not this morning.
It's good to hope.
Kiabu Road.
Kiabu Road. Boo.
Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Gone are the days when hiring should be about hitting the brick wall, because we understand how much it means to have the ideal candidate working for you and your organization. That's why at Standard Jobs website, we offer the complete employer dashboard that lets you interact fully with applicants, lets you track the full hiring process through a qualified specific smart search tool. What's more, we offer a full-on custom branded page that lets your company stand out with your own to choose custom page. So visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/jobs today and let's help you find the next ideal candidate for you.
It's not looking too bad on Thika Road this morning, but it's very heavy right around that Muthui Square junction coming off of Kiambu Road. We are going to see the traffic build up here, but we're going to keep an eye on things and let us know if you're stuck in that particular area. Looking at other parts of the city, coming out of Westlands, going then towards Chiromo and then out into the city is also building up as we see it. Mombasa Road, of course, we still have that traffic that's now building up between Sabaki and then coming out towards the SGR. Very slow there already this morning, and traffic has been building up for the last hour or so. So if you're planning on using Mombasa Road, you should have left. Okay, Langata Road also going out into the city slows down right around the Wilson Airport. That's starting to build up there and it'll go far back. We know that will because of that construction that continues there. Jogo Road going to the city also is building up as well, especially around the Makadara train station. That happens there and then goes on to Landis Road. Then you get into the city without too much of an issue, at least for now. But let's keep an eye on things. Like we say, it's slowly picking up. Tell us if you're stuck anywhere. The bypasses are looking good. Southern, Eastern, Northern, and the Red Hill Link Road out of Westlands, roundabout, then into the city, probably your better option now. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
24
FM.
minutes
Nairobi.
to 7. How are you doing? So I've got two stories. No, one story, but covered in from different angles in the papers. Let me start with the Nation one. Kagwe, give us cash, we buy you vaccines. So basically, the government has said private companies wishing to buy vaccines for the benefit of their employees are free to do so, but only through the government. Muthui Kagwe yesterday opened a window for private sector firms keen on procuring COVID-19 jabs for their employees to make orders through their umbrella body KEPSA, but he warned that such imports would not be sold for profit. He insists that investors seeking to buy and sell COVID-19 vaccines should kiss that dream goodbye, as the government policy on free administration of the life-saving jabs will not change. It's worth remembering that all vaccines in Kenya are procured by the government of Kenya and offered free of charge. Only one type of vaccine, the Pfizer-BioNTech, has so far received full market authorization by WHO. KEPSA will contribute money through its members and deposit to the National Treasury account for the Health Ministry. The ministry will then take up and procure vaccines via the African Union and bring them to the country for the respective KEPSA members to administer to their members. That's what he said. They'll not be allowed to sell any vaccine once it's brought into the country. Everything will be free and shall be conducted in designated areas that have been mapped out by the Health Ministry. So this conversation has been happening in the private sector for a while, right? So KEPSA has reached out to its members and said, would you like to vaccinate your staff? This is how much you can put into a kitty. So now they've been told, take this kitty, put the money in the National Treasury's Ministry of Health account. We will import the vaccines. They come, we will give you the quota that you have paid for. Then you shall distribute as KEPSA to your member organizations. The organizations shall then vaccinate their people. Okay? This is one. However, that whole issue of people importing vaccines and selling, that one closed. Vaccines are going to be administered free of charge through the government of Kenya. Now, page 12 of the Standard, CS decries COVID vaccine theft in hospitals. As Kenya is struggling with that scarcity of COVID vaccines, reports have emerged of rogue practitioners stealing doses from hospitals and carrying out private vaccinations. So this is what Muthui Kagwe is saying, that there are reports of health workers stealing the vaccines from the designated vaccination centers and selling them to Kenyans. There are people carrying out health camps with stolen vaccines. There is no way an individual of whatever nature will have vaccines of their own unless they have stolen them. The CS said some politicians were colluding with medical practitioners to carry out vaccinations in areas that are not designated points. This, he says, was being done to achieve political interest, hence posing fatal public health. Now, I saw somebody had actually posted this on social media, right? Saying, he conducted a camp somewhere in Muranga where there was vaccination taking place. And he was even talking about, the people that we've helped vaccinate had said that they had not even heard about the vaccination. And I've made sure that they get this first dose. I will make sure they get the second dose. An individual. These are the people that, yes, maybe he's talking about.
Right.
Because how do you get access to the COVID vaccine, that you're going to conduct a political camp. You know the way that they do at football? I'm sponsoring a football tournament. Now this one is sponsoring a vaccination drive. And you've come with the vaccines. From where?
So that's the question. Where do you get them from? So there's probably the link. It could be a link between what the CS is talking about and this.
Yeah.
That is obviously now, can you imagine? It'd be used for some kind of political gain.
You're the one.
Kind of influence,
you're the one
influence.
Who brought vaccine to us.
You brought it to us.
Yes.
And we now have some protection because of you.
Because of you.
Meanwhile.
So what happens is that now, if you come to us and you tell us to vote for you, we'll vote for you because, this is the person who cares for us. The question, though, is as this is happening, as the person is announcing that there's going to be a vaccination drive, the national government administrative officers, the chief, the local police, are aware of this. How do you let it happen? How do you know that this person is actually injecting people with a COVID vaccine and not anything else? This person posted it on social media. In addition to adhering to the Ministry of Health protocols, such as keeping distance, wearing masks properly, sanitizing and consistently washing hands, vaccination goes a long way in protecting against ravaging effects of COVID-19. Today, we have vaccinated over 1,000 residents of Gatanga Ward at Gadhaini Primary School. I also had a chance to persuade those who are undecided on taking the jab to consider taking it. I also noted that the majority of them were receiving this dose for the first time, and I committed that after the 8 weeks, I'll facilitate them to be given second and final jab at the same location. Questions?
Yeah, exactly, and big ones, because then you have to ask, okay, if this is happening and it's being reported, how much more of this is actually happening? And then you want to put this against, again, other reports that we are seeing of long lines of people standing, waiting to be vaccinated. And, now that the ministry opened this up to everybody at the same time, it's no longer just vulnerable groups or primary target groups. People are waiting in line to get these vaccines. And then there is now a report that an individual or individuals can come out and promise hundreds of people, I'll do it for you.
1,000 people.
It doesn't get any better, does it? It's a snowballing effect into some drama that I don't understand.
In Kenya?
Yes.
In this
our Kenya.
Every time you read of some occurrence in this country, even when you think you've heard things that baffle you, I'm now convinced there'll always be something that will baffle me even more than I ever thought I could be baffled.
Beyond the baffling?
Yes. Because it looks like there's no end to the sort of things Kenyans will get up to. There are no barriers whatsoever. There's this story in The Nation. It's at the headlines. It's how Kenya Power boss built empire from deals. It's a long story. Now, there's a case that has been ongoing in the island of Jersey. And there are details of the happenings that are now being made public. And just reading this article and going by what one has heard over the years, the woes of Kenya Power did not begin with the current management. They just jumped right in and found a space that had already been riddled with all manner of intricate illegalities to ensure that certain individuals who were in a position of power could just make money off the organization. Beginning with setting up your own company to act as a consultant for matters pertaining to that organization, getting commissions for work done.
Or not done.
Yes, it's you read it and you begin to, well, at least let me talk about myself. I begin to understand fully how it is that this matter of Kenya Power is not something that can easily be resolved. Because the two players who are mentioned in this case, a former Minister for Finance, Chris Okemo, and a former Kenya Power MD, Samuel Gishuru, they've been questioned. With all the money that was supposedly lost or the issues that arose from it, all that has happened is issues have arisen and people have been in court. And we're talking about over 20 years.
Yep.
No one has been arrested.
There's just been a move, to try and extradite this particular two gentlemen.
Yes.
But this is emanating from the case filed in the island of Jersey.
Yes, it is.
And it also quotes the companies that claim to have paid a bribe.
The companies themselves mentioned they are having paid.
Yes.
Yes.
They claim that we paid a bribe to this particular gentleman.
Yes.
For example, there's a company called Knight Pesol.
Yes.
Which is mentioned here, because so the allegation is that the allegation here is that the former MD would have a company that is registered as a consultancy.
Yes.
And then the company would do some feasibility study. Maybe, we need to that time it was Kenya Power just doing everything from generating power to selling it to you. So we need to do some feasibility study on, viability of putting up a dam somewhere here. So they go and do, like, for example, Ewasongiro Dam. Do a feasibility study. They bring in a company to do the feasibility study. The company is paid money, and then the company also pays some commission to the consultancy firm that is allegedly owned by Mr. Gishoro, and the money is paid into an account in the island of Jersey. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 dams that were to be built by 2007 at 38.4 billion shillings. The Ewasongiro Dam scandal prompted the British government to start investigations into Mr. Gishoro and then CS Minister Okemo. To deposit bribes into Gishoro's Windward Trading Company, Knight Pesol was first paid 15.3 million dollars upfront by Kenya Power, although the dam has not taken off 10 years later. The dam never materialized, leaving Kenyan taxpayers paying alone for non-existent projects. But this company and the people represented had made their money. Kenya Power was left with 14 reports done between 1991 and 1993, each report costing an average of $2.7 million. That's about 200 million shillings. That means that the feasibility studies alone cost Kenyan taxpayers 3.8 billion shillings.
Then,
at that time, in 91 to 93.
A colossal sum.
Imagine.
And you know what is of interest also? Some of these businesses required not just a signing off, but an indemnity from the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance provided. So, when you read of this, and you look at the detail, there's one detail that I really liked here. Liked in the sense that Mr. Gishuru, whose background, he was a lawyer, he seemed to have understood very many things. And he went into details that people who engage in such activities as he allegedly has been engaged in don't do. He actually engaged a company in Jersey to provide his company with the directors. So he never actually featured. The company was called Walbrook Trustees Jersey. Okay? Now, the point is, imagine someone who is clever enough to actually have a company, his. They call them shell companies. Yet, every director who is there, there is an organization that can provide you. You want directors?
Yep.
One of the people actually alive and kicking will provide. But, do you know where the problems started arising? It wasn't from Kenya. It's the British government that started following some of the money that they were supposed to have given Kenya to help Kenya Power increase its capacity. Now, what this reads, you cannot do such a thing to a public entity such as Kenya Power. I'm calling it public because it's a utility company that had a monopoly of a service for our lives. Not that it's not a public company. No. It's not possible for it to happen if the powers that be
don't know about it.
What's going on.
It is not possible.
Yeah. But remember when you were talking about the daughter of the former Angolan president, De Santos, right?
Yes.
And the time that whole scandal was erupting and being blown out of the water, and the conversation that we had here about those big companies that are registered in those European states, they don't actually just get a slap on the wrist. It's the same kind of thing here. these companies that were actually paying out the bribe are not the focus of attention.
No.
It is the recipient of the bribe that is the focus of attention.
Do you know how this thing works? We also have deal making in our system where if you're a perpetrator, so we saw it the other day with the PS, Treasury, and the CS. Well, the PS decided to stand state witness. And it was reported in the papers that he had worked out a deal with the prosecutors. That deal making seems to always leave the principal, as in the person who had the money or had the means to engage these people, holding the baby and the bathwater. The others who also make money out of these things, as you say correctly, a slap on the wrist, you get away scot-free.
Yep, it is. Stories of other people who are getting away. It seems as though coast families are asking where their sons are as cases of disappearance of their children are on the rise. Between January and August, the civil society says 26 cases of abductions have been reported at the coast. Most of the abduction done by armed men, residents claim, are from security agencies. In a situation that has seen the families and civil society's protest against continued abductions and disappearances by people suspected to be from these agencies. There are many examples that are being given here. Family of Abdul Hakim Sagar, whose kin was abducted 6:30 August 18th as he entered Mlango La Papa Mosque in Mombasa Old Town. His brother was entering the mosque when some men who identified themselves as police officers picked him up. When the public protested, the men drew out pistols and fired in the air. Yesterday, the families and civil society raised fears over the series of abductions as they marked the International Day of Victims of Enforced Disappearances. So this year alone, we've seen 26. 18 were registered last year. It's estimated that up to 200 people could have fallen victim to enforced disappearances in the last 10 years, which in most cases ends in extrajudicial killings. Faris, who's 44, pleaded with the government to produce his brother in court, saying he was a law-abiding citizen. So from what we're hearing, there are many, many more stories of this. And the question is, who is taking them? Where are they going? And for what purpose? And sometimes they turn up dead. And the questions are, what did they do? Were they involved in something? Even if they were, take them to court. This is what the families are saying. Are they suspects? Take them to court.
Take them to court.
Yeah.
Let due process be followed. But is anyone listening to them?
Well, our friend Hussein Khalid from Haki Africa was also in Uhuru Gardens, Mombasa, condemning the abductions in the country. And we also hear that other civil society groups involved in this. But nobody from departments that can actually do something about this have said anything. An inquiry is being demanded of the National Assembly and Senate committees on safety and the security of Kenyans. But that's about the size of it.
This issue of extrajudicial killings in this country, I mean, we seem not to want to address it.
It's a deal. It's a big deal. Eh?
Got to a point where the UN Secretary General dispatched a special rapporteur to come and investigate this particular matter in this country, and he produced a report. But that's it. We move on like, yeah. He came, he spoke. We needed to do something. We did what we needed to do.
He's gone.
He's gone.
But you know, along the same line, it looks like we also don't want to deal with the mental health situation of our security forces.
Or anybody for that matter.
Oh, anybody I took for granted that it is a discussion that will continue being a discussion. But I'm talking about people who are, if I may say so, in the line of fire. People who constantly face situations that by their very nature are traumatic.
Yeah.
There is a lot of talk about setting up units. Setting up units is not difficult. You just have a room and you demarcate it, counseling center. You'll have set up the unit. What sort of personnel? How many are there? This process, does it have a structure? Does it have a curriculum? It's not a one-off. Just like you have an armory, then every police station in this country ought to have a counseling unit, a place where such matters are dealt with. Do we hear this? You know, so long as some of these matters are not dealt with, the consequences will be these extrajudicial killings. And some of them are bizarre.
Yeah.
Quite.
You wonder, but wait, did somebody have to die? And the answer is no, somebody didn't have to die.
And the families who are asking for their kin, their families, and to the point that families are saying, if there was something that they've done wrong, but take them to court, charge them, but let us know where they are. It's not. You just disappear individuals with no explanation given. In some cases, they turn up dead. They disappear for months, for years. You have no explanation, nothing. It cannot be the trend that is being picked. It cannot be the trend right now. It can't be. You know? And so families are saying, look, there must be a reason. Are they being abducted? Are these people who come and say that they are actually security officers? Are they guising as security officers? Are they being recruited for something? You know, and they're valid questions. Even if it's not the security agencies and they're individuals posing to be, which is another possibility, are they then being recruited for something else?
But you know, if you are thinking of where young men disappear to, all the options that you mentioned come into play. They may have been disappeared, as you say, but on the other hand, they may have been recruited to join some nefarious body.
Yes.
Think of a young man who's unemployed. Someone says, we are recruiting you to do God knows what. It's never what they're recruiting you for.
Yeah.
And we will be paying you 100,000 shillings a month.
Money you've never seen.
You've never seen 10,000 shillings cash, 100. You may even see the first 100 and they say, once you take you for training, we'll be sending this money home. For the first 3 months, your folks actually tell you they're receiving money. Then suddenly you disappear. One doesn't know where you are. And then you suddenly realize that this organization you joined, you can't leave.
Exactly. The only way to leave is to leave the earth.
Yep. Now.
The Kenya Roads Board has taken out some pages in the papers today to talk about the annual public roads program for the financial year 2021-2022, and they're saying very many things, okay? One of the things they're talking about is how much money they've has been budgeted for roads and infrastructure in this particular financial year. Based on the collections of the Kenya Roads Board Fund and the budget policy statement as approved by the National Treasury and Planning. So how much? 55 billion shillings going into roads. Okay? So, and then you're looking at the kind of work that they've done on the roads in the last X number of years. For example, we're talking about in 2009, in a percentage of roads in this country and how they were looking like, 58.87% of the roads in Kenya were considered poor. 31.22 were fair, and only 9% of the roads in the country were good condition. In 2018, 18.2% of the roads were now considered good. That's rising from 9.9. Those that were fair rose from 31.22% to 43.66%, and those that were in poor condition dropped from 58% to 37%, and 1.12 roads were considered to be under construction. So work has happened on the roads, and that is true. It's something we cannot really argue against. But the questions always keep emerging is the management of the projects and making sure that all the road users, that the critical stakeholders, are factored in during construction and after construction, and also looking at maintenance. How much money are you putting into maintenance of roads? These and more conversations coming up in the next hour. Good morning. This is the Situation Room. With you is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga. Looking at the main things that are happening in the country and around the world. For example, the final flight from the US final flight from Kabul took off a couple of hours ago. So that's it. This is the end of the 20 years of US forces in Afghanistan. Are they left safer or not? Well, more on this. Good morning. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. There's concern in cabinet over impending cabinet changes by President Uhuru Kenyatta. It is reported that President Kenyatta wants to make the changes to strengthen the government performance as he plans to retire after the 2022 general elections. The changes are intended to minimize any challenges in government performance upon resignation of some CSs in February next year to vie for the electoral positions. According to the Standard newspaper, the head of state is expected to let go CSs who have been seen campaigning. The changes are expected any time. Members of Parliament are tomorrow expected to hold a special sitting that will see the 4 IEBC nominees for commissioner positions discussed on the floor of the August House. The Justice and Legal Affairs Committee approved all the four nominees, as forwarded by President Uhuru Kenyatta. They include Juliana Cherera, Francis Wanderi, Justice Nyang'aya, and Irene Masit. The seats fell vacant after Rosalina Kombe, Paul Kurgat, Margaret Mwachanya, and Connie Maina resigned from the positions. As the country commemorates the 11th anniversary of the Constitution, devolution remains being a major aspect of the Constitution because the counties have been given life by the Supreme Law. While speaking to KTN on the state of devolution 11 years later, First Council of Governors Chairman, former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, has these to say.
Devolution was supposed to devolve power and resources to the grassroots. In fact, in the Constitution, we even talked about devolving power and resources all the way even to the village level. We expected proper structures to be ingrained in law, and we expected adequate resources to follow even the functions so far transferred. The only other unfortunate thing is that the functions that were transferred were quite minimal, and even when they were minimal, the resources did not follow the functions.
The misunderstanding between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto continues to raise concern among Kenyans and leaders alike. Kwesero MP Christopher Aseka is now asking the National Cohesion and Integration Commission to end the ongoing dispute between the two leaders. Aseka said the current differences threaten national security and unity if it is not resolved soon.
Na tumemsihi rais wetu na naibu wake William Samoei Ruto, kama kuna makosa warekebishe. Hiyo vita tunaanza kuona haileti raha. Na wale watu wa National Cohesion tunataka waite rais na naibu wake wawaambia kwamba presidency is a symbol of national unity. Tukiona kama kuna tofauti kwa presidency, inji inaanza kutetemeka. Watu wanaanza kuwa na wasiwasi.
The national government, in collaboration with Nyeri County, has officially launched the Universal Healthcare Program with the aim of ensuring that needy residents benefit from the essential service. Speaking during the beneficiary registration exercise at Nyamira Clinic, Nyeri County Deputy Commissioner Julius Otieno said the national government has given priority to health issues for the benefit of the people. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
As we thought, traffic is already building up on Langata Road, trying to get out into the city. It's also doing the same thing and doing those huge snarl-ups on Mombasa Road. We're looking at that Imara Daima section. Old Mombasa Road as well. Folks using the ICD to get to the city centre, which is all right. Also then looking at the Southern Bypass, which is open and not a problem there at all. Smooth flow all the way through to Langata Road. However, you get to Langata Road and then you will get stuck. I'm sorry. That particular part. You can use then going through the other side, going out through Ngong Road. That is an option for now. Coming off of the Thika Superhighway, things are looking clogged up right now. Kiambu Road, packed completely. Then joining the Thika Superhighway and connecting with Pangani at the underpass. Going out towards the Global Cinema overpass, that will take you through, not too clogging in the city, at least not for now. But we'll keep an eye on things. Traffic situation is to a dull road now. KFS warns us, or rather reminds us, that 3 ferries are up for service. Star 712 hash. Don't pay cash. Text as well, 40127, or tweet SpiceFMKE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your
It's
day.
5 minutes after 7. Good morning. So more and more people are online, right?
That is true. Quite a number. Joe Safe Tunja is tuned in this morning. Bait Ashley, it's been a minute. Where have you been? Kevin Kipsang says Nanyuki is listening. Good morning. And Laban is tuned in from Nandi County. Marando Ben, Gatina Checkpoint, tuned in this morning. Tick, tick, tick. And Asuma Larson is tuned in this morning from Denmark. And Baloi tuned in from South Africa. And in Cape Town, Lyle Goliath, wow, tuned in as well. Seaview residents in Accra, Ghana. That's where Bernard Hanzier is tuned in from. And Wanjua Naomi says, tuned in from Thika, loving the show.
Okay. Have you talked to that one who's from the British Virgin Islands?
Oh, Chantel Phillip is, yes, listening in from the British Virgin Islands.
All right. You have traveled far and wide, City. Today's proverb?
Yes, I have. He who has never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
He who has never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
Should you travel, it will become clear to you that your mother is not the best
Is the
cook
best
in the world.
cook in the world.
She is not the only best cook in the world.
That's better. You know? Yes, yes. So, City says this is a Kenyan proverb. And yes.
Eric says.
It's about Kenya.
Yes.
Otathiaga augaga nyina newe owe kuruga.
That is Eric facing Mount Kenya.
Clearly.
Yes.
Okay.
Have you heard that one?
Kuga.
No.
Yes. Ati kuga?
That's all I got.
Okay.
That's what you said, isn't it?
No. That's not how it started.
Sawa,
No,
boss.
me, I got the end.
It's okay. It's okay.
He started with the traveling.
Me, I finished with what I heard that I could make.
Okay.
One who doesn't travel, otathiaga. Say.
One who doesn't travel, utaviaga.
Things, augaga. Augaga.
To think.
Says.
So, augaga about this thing, please, as we're going on.
Nina is your their mother. Nowe owe kuruga.
Nowe owe kuruga.
Kuruga.
It's actually a very simple language.
That's it. And you're done.
Sawa bana.
Sawa bana.
Sawabana. Hey, okay. City.
Yes.
Ati things are falling apart for top universities.
You know, the way this particular article has been written, I like the details that there are two individuals here, Graham Kajilwa and Dominic Omondi. They've actually gone into some pain of just giving numbers, giving details, talking about the cost of running public universities. The most expensive one being the University of Nairobi, whose cost of running is 17.3 billion, to one university that only costs 1.2 billion to run. These are public universities, okay? But there's a little detail. There is money that the government gives the universities, all right? And there is talk of the government, and there is also talk of the actualization of the government enabling students who got a grade C, which is the minimum requirement for university, also receiving what refers to as financial aid. Meaning, you read, it's a debt, you will pay it later, but the government pays for you. Okay? So that you can actually have an education. But alongside that, there's also the little matter of people who actually pay for the university fees. All right? Alongside that, there is a story of once upon a time, our universities expanded and there were colleges all over the place. All over the place. Some of those colleges actually matured and became fully fledged universities. Like, you know, Eldoret University. It began as a teacher training college. it became a constituent college of Moi University. It's now a fully fledged university. Okay?
So now in Eldoret, there's Moi University and there's Eldoret University.
Yes, there are two universities.
What?
One was the Chepkolel campus of Moi University. Now it is Eldoret University. There are many other such universities that later became fully fledged universities, but began as constituent colleges of one of the bigger universities. But why am I weaving this web? To explain that all these things I'm talking about, the students who go to, who seek university education, the colleges, it was because there was a demand for that education. So there was a feeling that education needs to be brought closer to the people. Now, that boom came, that boom went bust. Suddenly, that great need ceased to exist. And when that need ceased to exist, two things followed simultaneously. One, people who would ordinarily have paid to actually learn, the numbers decreased. Those who were employed to teach these ever-increasing numbers at that point in time suddenly found that the jobs that they previously had did not actually exist anymore because the demand for those jobs were not there. But something else came in that complicated these issues. It was subjects being taught. You know, one of the things that most people don't understand, for a subject to be taught in a university, it has to be approved.
Yep.
You have to get accreditation. You just don't wake up in the morning and say, us, we're going to teach X, Y, Z. No. There has to be a process. They have to understand that you have the facilities, you have the personnel. There are details that you must ensure that you have adhered to. And then there are people who will come, who are appointed by the board that does these things, to come and determine that you have actually met those basic requirements. It was found that there are many universities that were teaching courses that were unapproved. Now, the problem with this is, when you finish that course and you want a degree, that degree won't exist. Yes, because you've been taught something that wasn't approved. So the end product cannot be what you wanted. For it to be what you wanted, it has to be approved. The government is caught at some serious crosshairs because, one, there is the issue of restructuring public universities. And you know, it isn't the government that has brought up this discussion. No, it isn't. It's the IMF. They gave us money, and in giving us money, they looked at the country, they looked at our expenditure, they looked at what we do. University education is not the only thing they're focusing on. But since our discussion is on university education, they looked and said, you know something, we need to restructure all this. There's need to relook this. They need to charge students more money. There's need perhaps to merge universities. There's need to remove some courses. And by the way, when you say remove courses, you know what it means? Remove people who work in those particular departments.
Right.
Essentially, what we're looking at here is an overhaul. But where did the rain actually beat us? When university education was, and the demand for it was at a premium, did we capitalize on this fully and ensure that we took care of the possibility of a rainy day? Because a rainy day would come. Things never just remain that good for the longest time possible. Our CAS for education was the vice chancellor of the University of Nairobi at such a time when the universities were doing really well. And universities had money. Believe me, they had lots and lots and lots of money. Right now, universities do not have the money. And they are facing the realities of structural adjustments. The question I asked is, when the going was good, did we plan and take care of the day when the good times would come to an end?
I think there was a lot of greed all around.
Yes.
And I'm just using the word greed here because I have no other word to put. Maybe greed is too strong a word. What I'm talking about is, what was it that was happening in that decade of the Kibaki rule? There was now, first, increase in the number of institutions.
Yes.
Second, there was increase in the number of programs and ways in which universities could now give an education. And then there's the market. The market itself has for a long time been pushing for universities because of the collapse. Since the collapse of the technical institutions, it's just about a university degree. Do you have a university degree? Even police officers were going back to school. Everybody was going now for a university degree. so that you have a better chance in employment. So the market was not even factoring in anything else. The quality of education that you're getting is as long as you bring me a paper that shows that this is a university degree. And then the universities were also now looking at, okay, so we have more and more people who are asking to get university degrees, so let's create this program, this and the other. This. Many new programs and courses were then introduced. Money came in. Now, instead of also developing how else you can impart this knowledge, it's let's go and open campuses. Let's go and buy buildings in various towns. Let's open across the country and open campuses. So, when the conversation starts, when all that dust settles and you start asking questions, so, but what are we getting? What's the value of what you're getting? What paper is this that you've presented? What degree is this? What exactly has it given you in terms of skill? When those questions started emerging, now we start going back into the Commission on University Education. Did you allow these people to give this? No. You know, us guys, we were not even aware of these programs being given out. Listen to this. A report by the Commission for University Education in 2019 cited Tomboya University with a leading number of unapproved courses at 25. 25 unapproved courses. Garissa University had 10. Alupe University had 10. The Great Lakes University of Kisumu, 8. There were in total 113 unapproved courses at the time. Some of them are Bachelor of Arts in Geography, Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology, Bachelor of Arts in Counseling. It also revealed that some of the courses do not attract any application, which is part of the reason behind the CS George Magoha's push to merge some of these courses. Moi University in 2020 announced closure of Kericho and Nakuru campuses due to reduced number of students. Early this year, Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology resolved to close 4 of its satellite campuses in Kisumu, Nairobi, Kapsabet, Mumias. If you look at all these campuses, it's just a building somewhere that they bought, converted them into classrooms, and they said, come ye, you shall receive education from this fountain of knowledge. This is when it's coming to bite, like I said to you, you're asking. In those good times, did they factor in a rainy day? I don't think anybody was thinking about that.
I think there was the delusion that the good days were going to last forever. That moment when there was a windfall and there was extra and there was time then for folks to practice this kind of greed that was clearly apparent then, that there was no thought about tomorrow being worse than today. That there was clearly that thinking that it was always going to be this way or even better. But and of course, as you see, it was myopic and maybe even stupid thinking, because it is clear that nothing remains the same forever.
You know, I have to confess, I know of a vice chancellor of a public university who actually utilized that windfall very, very, very wisely for his university. The late vice chancellor of Maseni University, Professor Nyango, he actually bought a hotel. Kisumu Hotel, he bought it. There had been a Kenya National Insurance building in Kisumu as well. He bought it. And this was when all these facilities were prime facilities that could generate an income. So the department that dealt with, I'm going to call it what I'm going to call it because that's the best, home science. Okay, I'm sure it's called something else in the university, but I'm going to call it home science. Okay, or should I call it the hospitality science? Okay. When they offered such a course at that university, one could see of that particular course could actually be put to use because they owned. It was theirs. Now, I'm sure there are other universities who had leaders who made similar wise investments. Because it doesn't really matter what has happened, COVID notwithstanding. It means there was rental income for the university. There was a business that was being run. Are there other universities that thought? I'm sure there are.
But City, let me ask you at this point. Does the fact that you're running a university and then you go and start investing in, okay, so that's an income generating business.
Yes.
how does that tie into being a wise investment?
It's a wise
really?
investment because that money, if it isn't used for something that continues generating an income, it will dissipate. And you'll be exactly where you were before. And there'll be nothing to show for the money that you actually ever made. That's really my point.
But looking at the core business of
the university,
the core business, had they made sure at that point, before using any windfall for any kind of income generation, had they made sure that everything they needed to make sure that the structure of this core business would be fulfilled till today, this 2021 that we're talking about, at that time, to make sure that they had put things in place that would secure the core business? Because to me, it doesn't make sense that the thing that gave you this windfall, you've not protected it. You've not made sure that tomorrow you have something to fall back on, or that you have something that people will still come back to tomorrow. Here you are going to invest in businesses which you do not know whether they will succeed. You do not know whether you will make profit. And it is actually not the reason why you started this in the first place. You are not sure of it. If you ask, there was a shift in focus, and without securing the original thing which brought them there in the first place, I am not surprised then that this is the situation today.
To answer your question, they opened campuses.
How many have they closed so far?
Oh, literally everything that was open.
And the things that they opened, the thing that they opened was their quality assurance, making sure that what they were offering from end to end was secure.
Do you know why I mentioned this investment? I mentioned this investment because the university is a business.
In education?
It's a business, yes.
Yes.
It is a business.
Yes.
What the service it provides, what it sells, is this expertise we call knowledge.
Right.
Okay? Now, once you're a business entity, part of what you need to do is to ensure that you have an income. Income usually was students pay you. Okay?
Yeah.
That's where income comes from. Research grants come into the university. Endowments from alumni come into the university. That's how universities earn that little bit in our setup. Forget about it. It's theoretical. But the point I'm trying to make is it stood out for me because I was thinking, this is unusual. It's not something that I had witnessed. All public universities were making money.
Yes.
But apart from expanding the campuses.
You were not seeing real estate investment?
No, I wasn't seeing any.
Investment?
There were some. That's why I said there must have been.
Kenyatta University came and bought a building along Haile Selassie Avenue.
Yes, Methodist University also bought a building.
Methodist University bought a building. University of Nairobi bought a building along University Way.
Yes.
Is it Ambank House or the one next to it? Telposta Towers.
Yes.
Telposta, right?
Yes.
Well, they were converting them into. Moi University bought a building on Moi Avenue. Oh, that's good thinking.
No, isn't it?
Right?
Moi University bought a building on Moi Avenue.
Yes. But all these things, so you have a real estate project here. You have something. Okay? So many of them were buying them so they can convert them into campuses. But you can also say, you could argue that, okay, now we see this is a piece of real estate. You can rent out, you can get rental income out of it. But is that the core business of the university? Today, because of a university buying a hotel, is that university now well known or better known as a hospitality training provider?
It's not Utali College.
It's not to the level of Utali or even to the level of the new one that's being built in Vipingo.
It isn't. My point was this. The sort of investments that universities make that make universities thrive is when you're a center of excellence, you attract excellence and you attract funding. Okay?
Yeah.
Some of these huge universities abroad, it's not governments giving them money. No. They charge an arm and a leg for the courses that they provide. But as I said, alumni, endowments. You have many people who came through your doors and out of it, multimillionaires or billionaires. They put up a library for you. They do this for you. And then, remember, there's the element of research. Research gives universities a lot of money. In this country, if I remember correctly, research, the component as part of our yearly budget, Is it 0.2%?
Something very small.
Research,
Yes. Now,
it's under,
Yes.
Just
Now,
under.
it's a percentile. What am I saying? I am saying the normal channels through which universities make money in this country, they are not easily evidenced. Because if they did, then the very things that we are saying here, one would have seen. Beyond just expanding. As far as the vision went, expanding and having campuses was the thing that they did. But the question I originally asked, okay, having expanded then?
What next?
Yeah, then what?
I'm thinking of I'm thinking about universities the world over that have become they are institutions, but then they've become institutions that really deal in the business of knowledge and the business of now passing that knowledge on to others, and that even partner with countries, not partner with governments only of the day or other institutions, but partner with countries as the learning and knowledge base for a particular thing. Right?
Yes,
so here you are and you're saying that the government of Norway, for example, wants to train its medical doctors in a particular way. They're going to a said university, and that university has set up a center of knowledge. It's added business for them, but it is still in the line of knowledge. It is still in the line of selling knowledge and understanding and learning. So you're even helping other countries onto this. So it still remains part of your core. You've expanded, yes, you have, beyond where you're domiciled. You've expanded, but you're still proliferating knowledge and understanding. It's not buying a house or a piece of land somewhere and then so that it helps you to open other satellite campuses whereby your structure is not even moving beyond a building.
The buying of these buildings were not only just for setting up classrooms. The understanding then that there was a demand.
Yes, and that people would pay rent and such. Yes.
The only problem with these investments, even as I am lauding them as good things, is this. This is Kenya, and the question one asks is, okay, so fine, you bought we get it, you bought it.
How much did you buy it for?
Yes, and what was its real value, and what did you get?
Was this a conduit just for getting money out of the university?
Yes, that I think is a question that arises. However, universities elsewhere also partner with industry.
Yes.
They partner with commercial enterprises. They partner with the financial districts.
Yes.
They do. So,
but they never lose the focus of the core which they were set up initially to do.
But that's why they partner, because those people know
they know what
they're looking for, and they know what this institution is bringing to the
table,
and they know what they can actually do for them.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm thinking of Harvard as an institution. I'm thinking about the law school. I'm thinking about the medicine. I'm thinking about the School of Business and things that they've been able to do and partner with other institutions around the world. But it never takes, you never think that, okay, Harvard is now selling on the global scale, on the global market, for example.
Actually,
look at KU, for example.
Yes.
The kind of investments that they've done within the main campus, KU, the new hospital, teaching and referral hospital, the funeral home within there.
We spoke to a gentleman here with the KU Cube.
The kind of investment that they've gotten with the help of like the Chandaria Foundation, setting up that innovation hub with the Chandaria Foundation within campus.
KU, exactly.
That is something you can talk about and say, okay, well, you can see money has come, money has been invested, and this could propel the university's main agenda forward.
There is an entire hospital that has been set up.
This buying of hotels and buildings isn't going down.
No. Affiliated with the Kenyatta University right now that will then be listed as part of the country's referral hospitals at some point, right? Even after its opening. The gentleman who sat in this chair the other day talked about the ventilator that they had then been able to create.
Which is like in the final stages of...
Which you then can see is being supported by an institution of knowledge onto something else. A teaching and referral hospital often that you see linked to a university. Teaching and referral linked to university. Not just some clinic set up because we see that there's a disease in an area somewhere and okay, since we have some extra money, let's set up a clinic here. No. Still linked to knowledge. And I think that's what institutions of higher learning ought to do. That even if you are entering into something else, let the knowledge and the teaching and learning be still the core of what you're doing. Otherwise, you just become a market seller like everybody else.
So I've actually wasted my time looking up to these people who actually bought buildings. Okay. I've heard what you people have said.
7:30, let's take this break. All right, we're discussing about universities when things fell apart for top universities. A very good story featured in the Standard this morning, page 4. It's talking about the rain has come to beat the universities in the country. Many of them closing their campuses, many of them even having to shut some of their courses because they're just discontinuing some of their courses. Many of them have getting into trouble with the Commission for University Education because of offering degree courses that are not approved. What has the problem been? That's what we're discussing. Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Time for us to take a break. How are the roads looking like? We'll tell you shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
We give you the latest, the funniest, and the most entertaining updates and news from Kenya and the world while you kick back and relax. Join in on our comical duo Hassan Umar and Sugar Boy on Habari za News every Friday at 10 p.m. only on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs, but in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi. Sun's coming up at 16, highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. It's raining in Nyeri at 14, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 24 in Nakuru. Partly sunny conditions currently at 15 and mostly cloudy conditions in Eldoret. Highs of 23 and lows of 12. Light rain in Kisumu at 21, highs of 29 and lows of 18. 28 will be the high in Kakamega where it's raining at 20. Light rain at 23 in Mombasa with highs of 30 and lows of 23. 29 will be the high in Malindi where it's sunny at 23. Cloudy conditions at 20 in Kampala with highs of 28. It'll come down to lows of 19. Partly sunny at 23 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 23. 23 will be the high in Johannesburg. It's clear at 13, lows of 8. Mostly clear conditions in Lagos at 25. That rain has stopped for now. Highs of 30 and lows of 25 and 32 will be the high recorded in Kinshasa. It's cloudy at 23 and that will be the low for today.
Spice up your life.
All right, in the middle of the city, that's where it looks to be packed. So all vehicles coming from, let's name them, Langata Road, Ngong Road, the Thika Superhighway, coming out of Westlands, coming off of Landis Road, connecting from Jogo Road. Everybody's converging in the city, and we have a mishmash of traffic right in the middle of the city centre. Uhuru Highway, all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout outbound to Westlands. Inbound as well from Westlands, quite a lot of traffic this morning, and it seems that folks are still going on their merry way and causing a lot of traffic in the city to be expected. Nothing too painful. Where it is painful, however, is the Thika Superhighway. Very slow traffic all the way from Survey to the Pangani Underpass. Kiambu Road. Oh my goodness, an utter mess. I believe we're now at 3 to 4 lanes where it should be 2. Mombasa Road as well continues to be Achilles heel right now. A lot of traffic on that road outbound from the from the Way Bridge through to the SGR and then on towards Cabanas and General Motors. ICD route is going to help this morning, guys. The Southern Bypass as well. The bypass is behaving really well today. Eastern Bypass looking good. Not too much of an issue there. The Northern Bypass as well is all right. You can use that. That's an option. North Airport Road, we're going to see some issues there later on, but for now, it doesn't look too bad. The Mombasa Road continues to be one, guys. We're going to watch out for that one. All right. SpiceFM KE, talk to us on Twitter. Text 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Everything nice.
spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice
5
FM.
minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Grand Mullah, who's Grand Mullah _ says, good morning, Situation Room. Like in our case, the Vice Chancellor, Kiama, this is of the University of Nairobi, has gone ahead to implement draconian changes and triple the fees. You need to invite somebody to your studios.
I think there's need to actually bring in someone.
I think so.
To explain this.
Okay, we're looking at the tripling of fees. I think there was one thing that you said earlier, CT, and that's like, universities don't have money right now. They don't.
No,
they do not have. Where previously we saw things like these investments that we're talking about, which, in my opinion, just were absolutely unnecessary. But today they actually do not have enough. So when you see the increment of school fees, it's not because they had nothing to do on a Wednesday afternoon and twiddling their thumbs and said, okay, well, you know what, here's an activity, let's raise the school fees. It's because clearly they did not have enough to be able to make these particular ends meet. And as usually is the case, the end user is the one who's going to bear the brunt of when you have a problem financially as an institution, whether it's government, whether it is your family members, whoever it is, they're the ones who are going to bear the brunt. Those attending the university now, who normally pay school fees upon which the school then would survive, then are the ones who are going to be asked to bring in more money.
There's that whole conversation about equalization or bringing equity into university fees. Okay, so the argument, I've heard some people arguing, how much does it cost to train a medical student, just undergrad, from the first year to the final year? And how much is it costing to train a BA student? Why are they all paying the same fees?
But are they?
One is subsidizing the other.
But are they all paying the same fees?
Yes. University fee is the same.
Public universities, yes.
Everybody pays the same amount?
Yes. University fee is per student, not per course. And I think that's part of the conversation that I think has been happening at the University of Nairobi. Let's now start looking at it per course. If you are studying this particular course, it's a BA in this and the other, this is your fee. If you're studying architecture, then this is how much you're going to pay. Now, this is where it becomes a whole new conversation as well, because for a long time, some have been subsidizing the others just to have that equity. Because as a country, you need the doctors. As a country, you need the architects. And you don't have many that are studying. And how long it takes to actually get one qualified specialist doctor. Whole conversations on this. So the conversation that we're having is on this, what's happening to our universities. There's all this new conversation as well about the University of Nairobi and the direction it's taking towards the Department of Literature. Hey. Have you heard that?
It's actually even in the papers.
So what is the issue about the literature?
It's not an issue about literature.
No.
The issue that is being discussed is relevance, not literature, per se. Literature comes into it because it gets affected. Okay? And if you're going to ask about it, remember the courses that you outlined, anthropology. There is a certain relevance to courses that one could argue traverses time. The question that I would then ask is, what yardstick are we using to determine the utility? What are we saying? Okay, so fine, we want to change courses, we want to have different courses. Fine, so what is this criteria that we're going to use to determine that this is more important than the other? This one ought to go and this one ought not to go?
I think the basic yardstick they're using is looking at the applications. Even Professor Magoha is telling them to do the same. He's saying you should look at students coming to university on their own, maybe as a result of how fine your faculty is, but you'll have to decide at one stage which faculties you want to retain, how many students you want to have. Even the Harvards of this world, if I were to tell you the number of students they have, you'll actually be shocked. And this is when he's pushing for merger of some of these courses, basically saying not all universities ought to be offering the same program. Specialize. Say, Egerton, you're going to offer courses on agriculture and agribusiness and that kind of line, because you're very good at that. You don't have now to start bringing in home science in Egerton University.
Actually, they do have home science.
Yeah,
In
and
fact,
knitting and secretariat. I've been to uni, I was looking at some of those courses and wondering, Egerton.
Long before it became a fully fledged university, when it was essentially an agricultural college, it made sense for it to have what we're calling home science. Okay, it also made sense for it to have a course in just milk production, anything, the entire diversity of what can be considered agricultural. And the beauty of Egerton was this: it was equipped. They had a hospitality setup, meaning they had a motel. They had a dairy. They had farms. They had farm implements. So when someone studied engineering in Egerton College, it wasn't theoretical. No. You actually knew what it is that you're studying because you studied it physically and you actually utilized it. It was a well-facilitated college. Jomo Kenyatta University, JKUAT, very well equipped. But you will find that part of the reason why the three universities I'm mentioning is somebody equipped it. By the time the government took over, the government found it equipped. Now, the question that I would ask is, apart from making it a fully fledged university, all right, what else did they do? The direction that it was purposed for was clear. But what else did they do that would have been in tandem with the needs of the country? Because this is really what the argument is. These courses have to be relevant to our needs. Okay? I remember a time when people said, when environmental sciences or food sciences came in as a course, we wondered, so wait, you want to study what again? Environment. Okay, you want to study what? But the people were already studying botany and zoology. So what's environment? PE. People like Professor Moni Wekesa were some of the pioneers who actually studied, what we call PE. The man proceeded to get a PhD in PE before he decided to do law. Now, sports health, sports management is a big thing now.
It's a very big thing now.
Huge. At that point in time, it wasn't. Now I'm asking.
Because it was also being called PE.
Yes,
and you remember in primary school, PE is the time we go and play.
And run around.
Play basketball or whatever. Yeah, it was that time.
Go out there and just play. Not thinking anything beyond.
No, the science was really far removed from it. Now, we do have institutions in our country that deal with looking at courses, understanding the relevance, proposing what ought to be done. The question is, when they've done all this work, how much of what they suggest is actually ever implemented? It's like going back to the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development and talking to people who work there, and they'll tell you the things they do, the planning they've had, the things they've suggested ought to be done. You ask, how many of these things are actually ever implemented?
I think questions, remember even when we were having a conversation here with the KUSIPs, what was the other name that she called? KUPS. This is the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement Service. When you had the CEO here, and we were talking about some of these courses. So the conversation ought to be starting at the Commission for University Education.
Yes, it should.
And then the others, for example, the Council for Legal Education and others such as those. On what quality are you pushing?
Yes.
Before you allow an institution to start offering a certain course, have you made sure that they are able to offer that course? And then now work backwards so that COOPs can now go and as they're talking to students in high school, they are telling them, now, this is what this course is all about. This is what you can get from this course, and this is where the course is being offered. And when you go in there, you'll basically be able to get fully everything that you need. Dr. Malobo Wekesa says the issues at the University of Nairobi are far more complex than the fees increase. He says everything starts at the level of the council.
Meaning what?
Meaning it's a management issue.
Sure, exactly.
It's a governance
issue. So
issue.
you're pointing back, and you point back to state leadership that there's a problem. But then so many it cascades down. So if it's a leadership, it's a management issue that we're not able to do. The courses that we said we would offer, the satellite campuses that we said we would open, the way in which we say we will manage teaching and learning in a time of a pandemic, for example, whereby people cannot come to class physically and learn. How are we going to make sure that there's continuity of learning regardless of the outside situation? All of those things, I think, have compounded into this issue now that we are facing. And if you look at University of Nairobi, it's not the only one who's suffering from these issues, because things have fallen apart at top universities across the country. So are we saying that there's a management issue in all of these? Or are we saying that there are different issues that have affected different universities that is causing the problem across the board?
I think there are different issues, but I think that level of governance, it's sticking out. Because during those good days, like Citi is talking about, during those good days, you could clearly see there was a governance issue here. The questions that we're asking today, so what did you do with the windfall that you made?
You had.
Yeah. Today, and remember we talked about it last year at the height of the COVID-19 restrictions, right? We asked, so universities, schools have been ordered shut, including universities. Universities are having to look for their students and telling them, okay, now guys, we have come up with this new platform that you can log in and be able to access learning. Universities in 2021 in this country, they went and invested in brick and mortar. How much of actual university online training
substance
did they invest in?
You know, University of Nairobi was started off as Royal Technical College. Technical College. Okay?
Yeah.
The Great Harvard University was started off as an institution for training clergy. Universities, by their very nature, learning institutions by their very nature, morph to meet the needs. There's a time in this country when we needed to train as many teachers as possible because we're a new country, people needed to be educated. It's one of the things we're trying to do to get all our citizens literate. So you allowed people, there was an entry point which was essentially a certificate level. P3, I think it was what it was called. You could then move on to get a better certificate called a P2, P1. When you're a P1 teacher, you were then poised to get a diploma. And those days, I doubt very much if there were degrees being offered in education. It was diploma. That's as far as you could go. Then degrees came along. Recently, some of these certificate courses and diploma courses were removed. Now, that's where you ask the question, is it that we don't need people with diploma qualifications? Or is it that you think that is only a university degree that can meet that need? And I'm saying that is not true. It can't be.
What difference does getting the university degree give that teacher?
Yes, that the teacher who got a diploma have.
Yes.
Why? What is it? See, in the absence of these things, and in the absence of understanding that, the question that you would ask with reference to teaching, something I'm familiar with, have we reached the threshold where we have enough teachers in this country trained to meet our needs for the next 10 years? Or do we need to continue training them? Or should we stop training them? Because that's the question I would ask. The teachers we currently have, the teachers who are currently being trained, if we were to give them a lifespan of, say, 10 years in the teaching profession, do we still have enough teachers to meet the needs? Because we have an ever-growing population. The answer would be no. We still need to keep training teachers. Then the all-eternal question is asked, then why don't we employ as many teachers as we need? And then somebody will come back and say, it's the money. And I'll ask, it's always the money, yes. But in all honesty, there is a discussion that is not being had here. Because a fundamental strategy for any country in meeting its basic security needs is to look at manpower development. So, why train them if you cannot place them or if you cannot find somewhere for them to go to? And it doesn't mean the government has to employ them. No. It means you have an economy that can absorb them. One of the things that will fascinate you if you ever travel out of this country and you go to a country like, say, America, is the number of places you go to and there's a notice, we are hiring. It can be a bank. You've gone to do your banking. We are hiring. It's there. Meaning, you in the queue, if you wish to go and discuss, you can discuss. You pass by a shop, you pass by... And you know what you think of? Imagine the situation in Kenya if such a notice was put outside, say, a bank. 5,000 people would be there.
Yes.
So, is that not the thing you need to discuss? Because those 5,000 people clearly meet the minimum threshold for that particular job. But they do not have that gainful employment. So, as you're training, as you're offering courses, as you're restructuring, what guarantee can we have that when people reach the end of their studying, they won't be joining those many thousands who will look for any opportunity to get any job that come their way?
Which is why I'm always an advocate for these institutions of learning to really be in tandem with the job market. That these two always have to be in discussion.
What would that mean, though?
Well,
if the job market is shrinking, you shrink the number of students that you're taking in.
What if the job market, according to particular jobs, is shrinking, but the other opportunities, which we've clearly seen, are available? Shouldn't then that guide the way in which, look at TVETs that we have now. What have we been told? That there's other kind of certification that you can get that will meet a need in the job market tomorrow.
Yes.
But are these conversations happening between the two, the market and these institutions?
But at the same time, though, even with the increase in TVETs and focus on TVETs, are there opportunities in the job market that would still take in the TVET graduates? Because we still have very many TVET people who are graduating out of TVET.
For sure, the demand outweighs. The demand outweighs, what is currently available in terms of jobs.
Yeah.
But that will not be the reason why you say then these individuals should not be educated. Because the other, if you take it to its logical conclusion, that's like saying, all right, since there are not enough jobs, let's not educate these folk.
Yeah,
you can't do that.
That's what I heard you say.
No, that's not what I said.
That's what I was asking. Is that what you mean when you say that the university should be in tandem with the job market?
No. When I say in tandem, I think they should be having conversations. These are the kinds of jobs that are available. This is what there is increased demand for in the wave in which we're in. If we're in an information and technology age, do we need to offer more courses in schools in things like coding and programming and technology? Do we need to make sure that, are we looking at a situation whereby the architectural sector, for example, is looking for people who are more trained in masonry and painting, professionally trained? Should we then be offering these in our TVETs? Should we then be offering these in our universities? And I think these conversations can actually take place. It's been long ignored, and we are saying, well, it doesn't really matter. Sure, if you want to be a mason, you can just grab it on the side of the road. But now we're looking for more professionals. Can these conversations be had? And they are being had in very many places on this planet where they're saying, okay, you know what? Here we are offering education. But then what are we going to do with these students when they finish? What are they doing? They're having conversations with the workforce, and there are associations and organizations that are put together for this very thing. Professional bodies. We heard the other day when the professional body of engineering came out and said, well, thank you very much, but these guys didn't have what we needed. What if that conversation had been had when you had taken in your first entrance of these students? To say, please make sure that you're doing 1, 2, 3, because when you come out, we would then expect this of you. Indeed, it's not enough. But that doesn't mean that we can't be having the conversations about what needs to happen in terms of education to then match the workforce later.
Yeah, somebody who's listening to this, he's a lecturer at the University of Nairobi, and he's tweeted us, and then we've been able to get him on the line. Dr. Malobo Wekesa, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Dr. Wekesa.
Yes.
Now, you say that the problems go into governance, as we understand your tweet.
Yes, of course. What people need to understand is the leadership at the university actually starts at the council, and it's the council which is actually responsible for policy direction for any public university. Meaning that the quality of the people who are at council are the ones which, who the university looks up to for the inspiration in the direction the university is supposed to take. Now, what has happened is the reverse has become true. Rather than these people being where the university harvests its inspiration, these people are actually inspired by the perks that they get.
So they need for the money.
Where the problem lies. So instead of having ladies and gentlemen who are actually going to be, the bulwark by which the university can be able to look up to for its growth, these are people who are actually getting into the university for the kind of things they can be able to extract from this institution.
Okay.
Yes, I don't want to put out names because then definitely they are not here to defend themselves.
Yeah.
They are not here to defend themselves, but
Dr. Wekesa, just across the board, if we just look at, because that's a question that we are asking ourselves, if you just look at all the universities are right now sort of grappling with first reduced incomes from students, and then there's the pushback again from the Commission for University Education on the number of courses you have, looking at your own administrative expenses, and now having to make the decision, a painful decision, to shut down some campuses. And City had asked this question. So, where did the rain start beating the universities?
All right, here is the thing. Let me first debunk the myth that the moment you are a professor, that means you are an excellent manager. That one is far from the truth. Take, for instance, for me, I'm a linguist right now. I'm also the Secretary General of WASU.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't mean that as I go up the ranks in my academic engagement, I also become as good a manager as I can be.
Yeah.
Professor Magoha was a surgeon, a urologist actually, all right? Professor Kiama Gitahi right now is actually a geneticist, all right? It does not make them good managers. What they need is direction from council. Council is the one which is supposed to be the manager. I don't know if you are aware right now that our council chair has also become a manager at the university. And she's busy appointing people, yet it's the equivalent of a board chairman of a school trying to appoint a dining prefect.
Becomes an executive chairman.
It's that ridiculous. It is that ridiculous, yes. That
so you're saying doing things that they shouldn't be having, they should not be involved in, too menial?
At all. Not just not doing things that they are not supposed to be involved in, but the very fact that they are actually not interpreting their policies, leadership situation.
Their policy functions well, yes.
Yes, they are not interpreting these policy functions so that they can actually give direction to the university over a long period of time. What they look at is how much can we extract here, okay? And it has been across the board. It is just not a problem at the University of Nairobi. It's just everywhere. There's even a time, I remember there's a governor who was saying that we need to also be represented in council. And that, I think, was in Moi University. There was a governor who was saying, can we get into council? Because now it became
a political
business.
thing, yes.
You see that?
Yep.
It became a business. So universities were not actually having good policy directors. Now, and the fellows who had now scaled the ranks to become leaders, say vice chancellors and deputy vice chancellors at the university, the assumption was that because they are professors, then they are also very good managers, which is actually not true. A lot of them, and I personally respect Professor Magoha for one thing. The moment he was appointed the vice chancellor, the person who was the council chairman, I think it was Wanjui, Joe Wanjui, he encouraged him, can you go for a management training? And he actually left the country and went to Wharton. Yes, and he did some management, all right? I would have even encouraged that we don't even need to be going far. How about if they even went to the Kenya School of Government? So that they learn basic management skills as they grow up through the ranks.
Dr. Malobo Wekesa, we want to invite you so you can come into the studio one of these days and we have a conversation about these whole issues, and especially even just trying to understand what UASU has been pushing and clamoring for better management.
Thank you. I mean, I will oblige any time that you are ready, and it's good if we can have this conversation even opened up so that more people can actually join into the conversation and make the public universities a better place.
That's very true. Asante sana, Dr. Malobo Wekesa, Secretary General of UASU and lecturer at the University of Nairobi. Have a lovely day. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Sugar and spice and everything I spice it.
spice up your life.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto. Human rights activists want the police to present people they have arrested on allegations of being involved in terrorism to court. While observing the International Day for Enforced Disappearance, they claim that police have abducted people, especially in the coast, on allegations of terrorism, never to be found again.
Tumeweza kusikitishwa na mambo ya watu kupotezwa, hasa kina vijana wasiopungua umri ya miaka 35 wamepotezwa kiholela.
Angalia hali imezidi kuwa tata nchini Kenya, hususan sehemu ya pwani ambapo hizi hali za kupotezwa kwa watu zimeendelea kuongezeka.
The sad thing is that we are suspecting those who are behind these atrocities are government security officials, and it's disappointing that the same individuals who are expected to respect, to uphold the law are the same individuals who are breaking the law.
The national government, in collaboration with Nyeri County, has officially launched the Universal Healthcare Program with the aim of ensuring that needy residents benefit from these essential services. Speaking during the beneficiary registration exercise at Nyamaiya Clinic, Nyeri County, Deputy Commissioner Julius Otieno said the national government has given priority to health issues for the benefit of the people.
Tuko hapa kwa sababu ya kuendeleza mojawapo ya ajenda kuu ya serikali ya Mheshimiwa Rais, na hiyo ni Universal Health Care. Serikali kuu inaipa kipaumbele sana mambo ya afya, na ni lengo ya serikali kuhakikisha ya kwamba huduma ya afya inafikia wananchi mashinani. Lakini zaidi ya hapo, ningehimiza wananchi tuchukue nafasi hii tuingie kwa hii program ya National Health Insurance Fund. Itatusaidia sana kwa mambo ya afya.
Boda operators in Bungoma East are being urged to stop being used by politicians to provoke violence, especially as the nation approaches the general election. Speaking in Webuye, Bungoma East Police Boss Valerian Obore said some political leaders have the habit of using boda riders to cause chaos at public rallies, warning that those found guilty will be dealt with accordingly.
Kama wewe ni kiongozi na unatoa pesa kidogo, unapatia kama sisi boda tunapewa, unaenda unafanya madhara, unaenda unatupa mawe. Kwa nini huyo kiongozi asiweke watoto wake wawe laini ya mbele kwenda kutupa mawe, si ndio? Because wewe unapofanya hivyo unaingia kwa uhalifu na mtoto wake analala mzuri, si ndio? Wakati unashikwa watoto wako wanaumia, wake wako kwa nyumba wanaenjoy, si ndio? Tafadhali tuachane na hizo vitu, tukae mzuri na tuone viongozi wale wako na sera mzuri.
Residents of Boni in Lamu County are at risk of being attacked by buffaloes due to lack of water. The residents say lack of water has forced the locals to share water points with the animals. Residents from Pandanguo and Kiangwe have to walk several kilometers to get water. And the last U.S. Air Force plane has finally left Kabul, marking the end of the U.S. presence in Afghanistan after the Taliban seized control of the nation. The commander, U.S. Military General Kenneth McKenzie, said the last C-17 plane left Kabul with the U.S. ambassador. Commander McKenzie has said diplomatic talks are currently underway to remove those who could not leave before the rescue operation was completed yesterday. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Smack dab in the middle of traffic hour this morning, and we're looking at quite a lot of traffic right in the middle of the city centre, in and outbound. It looks absolutely crazy. All that traffic that's joining from the Thika Superhighway, coming all the way from Survey through to Pangani into Muranga Road, out then towards the Globe Cinema overpass. In the city, it's a mishmash, all jam and no butter. We're also looking at Langata Road. Quite some has built up then beyond Wilson Airport, all the way as far back as the turn-off then into Langata proper. We're also looking at traffic coming out of Westlands, Parklands, Limuru Road, all the way through to the other side of Ngara, on the eastern side of Ngara. So that also continues. Mombasa Road, yes, guys, that whole stretch around Syokimau coming in from the Weybridge is absolutely packed. North Airport Road also continues to look like some traffic this morning. We're seeing traffic also on Jogo Road getting into the city industrial area. That's a totally other story. It joins the Likoni interchange. Use the southern bypass then to get into the city. Go round to get in. It'll probably help. Let's see what happens in about half an hour as it continues. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. That's how you can get in touch with us. Talk to us on text as well. 40127. We want to keep things moving this morning, and we're going to need your help.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
It's
Room.
6 minutes after
the
8.
only
Very good morning to you, wherever you're tuned in on SpiceFM, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or around the world through our digital platforms, or those joining us now on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. This is Kenya's biggest conversation on this 31st day of August 2021. C.T. Muga has the day's proverb.
He who has never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
He who has never traveled thinks the mother is the best cook in the world. True. Until you travel and you affirm that your mother is the best cook in the world.
There's that little detail, yes.
Okay. So you know what happens nowadays in the newsrooms? On Sundays, as a news editor, the person who's on the desk, you want to know the kind of stories you're going to have at the end of the day? Just listen out to the churches. Send your reporters to church. And the big political newsmakers will be in one church or the other around the country. And they'll be given an opportunity to speak. And they'll even be prayed for. And some of them will even preach and speak to the people. This past Sunday, what did we see? We saw the Deputy President, William Ruto, at St. Augustine Catholic Church in Bahati, Nakuru County. Opposition leader Raila Odinga was at the Bible Fellowship Church in Kangare, Murang'a County on Sunday. ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi was the AIPCK Church in Githunguri, Kiambu County on Sunday. Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka was at a church service at the Cathedral of Praise in Imara Daima, Nairobi County last month. But this Sunday he was also at some church. All right? This is a trend that is happening. I mean, political leaders, they go to church just as ordinary people go to church, but then they're given an opportunity. They speak. They're guest of honor this particular Sunday. Our special guests is Mheshimiwa so-and-so. Mheshimiwa kuja salimia wananchi kidogo. Of course, Mheshimiwa goes to salimia wananchi wako kidogo, and the Mheshimiwa goes to salimia the wananchi. Some clergy have no issues with this. For example, the leadership of the Bible Fellowship Church in Kangare, Murang'a had no issue at all, even asking the former Prime Minister to come forth, kneel, and they prayed for him. The leadership of St. Augustine Catholic Church in Bahati, Nakuru County had no problem. They even invited the Deputy President. Or the leadership of the AIPCK Church in Githunguri had no problem. They also even invited Musalia Mudavadi to pray for him. No issue. But the leader of the Anglican Church of Kenya, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, he says this trend is worrisome. He says we must safeguard the pulpit for its sole purpose, which is worship. Sadly, we've collapsed the boundaries between the pulpit and the pews, the profane and the sacred. We must rededicate ourselves to protect the sanctity of our sanctuaries and refuse to hand microphones to politicians inside the church. Let them do their politics out there, the Archbishop said. The Presbyterian Church of East Africa only 2 months ago also tried to gag the politicians, but it failed. In July, PCEA Secretary General Robert Waihenya said in a statement that the altar would not be used by politicians to advance their interests. Politicians should not be given a forum on our pulpits to conduct politics, but they should instead attend services just like any other member. That's what Dr. Waihenya said. Dr. Sapit said, Archbishop Sapit said, The sad thing is that pastors have now realized that this is harvest season. They'll use the chance to invite politicians in the pretext of greeting the congregation, but it never just ends at that point. They'll want to politic. The issue there is it okay for politicians to stand at the pulpit of the church and address the people and politic? Because they just don't stand up and say, thank you very much,
they never do.
Padre, asante sana kwa kunialika, wananchi hamjambo, asanteni sana, asante, nashukuru. Go and sit down. They never do that.
It never happens.
Na sisi tunasema mwelekeo wetu tukiwa na Mwenyezi Mungu, mwelekeo wetu ni mbele. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Raila quotes the Bible. This and the other. Is there an issue, really?
Yes, of course. There's
What's
an
the issue, though?
Okay, if we even step away from, if we're going to look at church and all the services which it offers, Majority Leader the other day, Sam Pogishio, the report was there, and he was actually quite upset. And they were burying their friend. And he said here was another opportunity for politicians to come and make mud of what was to be a solemn moment when we're saying goodbye to our friend. And then you come here and then your quibbles, your politicking then comes away and takes the meaning away from what we are supposed to be doing at this point. The same principle can then be applied to church. And I think this is what the folks are saying. That in this moment, what is supposed to be happening is that people are gathering for a moment of worship. That's what's supposed to be happening. Now, whomever invited them, pastor, congregation, self-invitation, whatever it was, self-invitation, whatever it was, is that you've taken away from that moment when other things are supposed to be happening. And we know, or we would assume, that the purpose or the intent of you coming and speaking from the pulpit is not for you to greet the congregation and say, peace be upon you. No, it's to further a political agenda. And what they're saying is, don't do it here. That the pulpit is being abused and they don't want it anymore. Politic elsewhere. The same principle that can be used when funerals, it's no longer a funeral. People talk until sometimes you even forget that there's somebody who is lying there that's supposed to be buried. People come and they have their back and forth. We even saw an ashamed situation where people were almost even fighting at a funeral at some point.
At the funeral this weekend of the former senator. It's the same. It was
same
politics.
Thing. Same thing. So that's the thing. The principle of the situation is being trodden upon. And they're saying it is enough. There are many an opportunity that you have to politic. Don't bring it into a situation of reverence and symbolism for something else.
And these statements that they're making, who are they making it to?
Themselves.
Look, people who have grown, they've developed painstakingly over time a certain attitude that negates and trivializes everything and anything other than that which is important to them. What makes these pastors think? It's not the pulpit. It's their attitude towards that church or the place of worship. Because if these leaders were indeed people who had any reverence for God, they themselves would realize that, you know something, I can talk to these people outside the church. I do not have to talk to them in church. They are the first ones who would make the statement and said, while we are here, we are all parishioners. We've all come to listen to what is being said, and that is what we will do. When the service is over, we can have another discussion. But in here, this is not a place for us to have this discussion. This is where we come to all be at the same level with everyone, because before God, we are equal. Now, everything that I see from a politician, they have absolutely no regard even for this God whom they supposedly go to worship or purportedly worship in these churches.
You have to ask the question if that was their intent. Going to church, was it to worship God or was it to address to address somebody else?
God is treated in the same way as the rest of us. Taken for granted, assumed God can be advised, God can be told what to do, where to stand, where to sit, when to listen. And if you are some irrelevant preacher who happens to be serving this God whom they don't really hold in very high regard, you facilitate their standing
but
there.
you guys, the matter of faith is a matter open to interpretation, individual interpretation.
That's what I've just done.
I completely hear what you're saying, CT. And there are those who agree with you. There are those, even the church leadership, like we've just seen, the Secretary General of PCA, the Archbishop of the Anglican Church of Kenya. A tweet, for example, by the Provost of the All Saints Cathedral, and who has been here, and he said this same thing before. The very Reverend Canon Samuel Wainaina said on Twitter, "Today, most of our politicians were in churches. Unfortunately, the church leadership entertained them. We will blame ourselves when the country will be on fire." He is of the same opinion that political leaders should not be standing on the pulpit to address people inside the church. That is the preserve of the men and women of God.
Yes.
Okay? Those that allow them to come have a different view. And in fact, the congregation that cheers them and claps for them have absolutely no problem. I'm taking it back now to the what are the politicians?
That is the unfortunate truth.
The people who are sitting there in church and they don't see any problem. Yes, the person is not addressing before the preaches. It is at the end of the service. Or even at some point, maybe we are saying this is the time for visitors to stand up so we can acknowledge our visitors, depending on the church's program. If the church program says we shall welcome visitors at this point before then the word of God is delivered by pastor or bishop, so and so be it. The people of that church are okay, and their understanding is clear that this person is not desecrating the pulpit. This person is just a visitor, and we welcomed a visitor to come and speak to us. After they sit down, we shall receive the word.
Unfortunately, what is happening, and it sounds great, Eric, but unfortunately, it really sounds great. But you always say the situation on the ground is what?
Different.
What happens when they do then get on the pulpit and take the microphone or whatever is something totally different. And you start to hear different messages of which side you should pick and who said what about what and the other thing. And that's what they're saying. The message that is being given when these individuals are given a platform changes. And what they're saying is this time that has been set aside for worship should be held as just that. You have so many other hours and minutes and so many other places where you can send these political messages. Go and send them there. And send them there.
You know the message I'm trying to send to you guys.
I understand that you're saying that the audience welcomes it as well. Whatever.
The worshippers.
We say the two people that you believe the most are who? Your doctor and your pastor.
The worshippers.
Now, if your pastor insists that we are not going to have this here, trust me, the worshippers will fall in line.
Do you know?
Yeah, but why should the pastor insist if nobody has a problem? If the pastor himself doesn't have a problem and the church membership does not have a problem,
there's a huge entertainment factor.
Why is a Nairobi person having a problem?
Yes. I mean, I have attended enough funerals in my backyard to have understood the point Eric is making very well. The people who come for those funerals look forward to listening to politicians. They actually do.
One of the reasons why you'll find the church is full today is because we knew so-and-so is coming.
People want to listen to politicians. In fact, do you know what is actually strange and probably what really is at the heart of the matter? People seem to want to listen to these politicians more than the preachers.
Because people don't want to hear the truth.
Well, partly that, but also politicians are high entertainment value. When I say that these people have a little regard for this God in whose church they've gone to, I am not saying it lightly. If they had regard, they would behave differently in those churches. It's not complicated. How many people do you know of who, when they seek privacy and they want to eat a meal in quiet, go to the toilet to eat?
You'd be surprised.
Yes, I would be, wouldn't I?
Yes, you would.
And if you're known to be somebody who eats in a toilet, what would we label you as?
Well,
what I'm saying is, I'm being a bit dramatic, but what I'm trying to say is, there's something called decorum. It's very simple, really. It's understood. Why is it, for instance, in a mosque, it can't happen. It does not.
You don't even think about it.
It doesn't. It won't happen.
It's clear. It's been set. Those lines have been very clear. They were drawn a long time ago. It doesn't even come into the mind of anybody. Okay, we're going to wherever Sunday morning, Friday afternoon, let's go. Where? You would never think about it. Because it has been very clear that here, this is what we are doing here. You won't
and you're not bringing this into this space.
We'll listen to you somewhere else. We'll come in throngs and listen to you somewhere else.
But here, no.
But here, no. And that's what they're saying. Those actually who have the gumption to open their mouths and say, don't do this here, have seen it and they've had enough of it. And they say, we're not saying that what you're saying is bad or that it is wrong. What we are saying is that in this place, at this time, it is not the place. Do it somewhere else. The same way you're saying that the message is welcomed and it's entertaining by the audience is the same way I'm saying that there are certain leaders right now who are saying, you know what? We have moved beyond what is acceptable. We've accommodated it for the longest time. Don't do it anymore. There are places where the political message can be said and there are places where it can be heard. Take it there. In places of worship, it's no.
You ask yourself this simple question. The moment you allow a politician to stand up and speak, does anybody remember what the preacher said? Thereafter.
It's done. The message is out the window. And that's what they're trying to say.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. You see,
well, if the preacher of the day didn't have a compelling message.
No, Eric.
Whether there was a politician or not, it will not be remembered.
Look at it like this. Let me give you an example. When you take a child to hospital and you give them an injection, they're faced with some truths, right? What normally happens is that you give them something sweet. What do they remember? Do they remember that they had the injection or do they remember the sweet that you gave them at the end of the day? It's the same thing here. We're saying that in this place of worship, there's some truths that are being spoken. There are some lessons that oftentimes are painful for people to hear. There's a place where people are coming together to be able to now make some changes about their lives, however you want to look at it. There are sobering moments that are held in places of worship. When you come and muddy everything now with your political, choose whose side, who's doing what, going in whatever direction, bottoms up or up bottom, it takes away the entire message that you've spent the last 45 minutes trying to put across. And that's what they're saying.
Have you heard of the word desecration? You see, if indeed there are people who actually believe that there is a God, whoever they think that God is, there is a place for that God. And that place usually is set aside in this place that is called a temple, a mosque, a church. And the functions that take place there are things that are intended to increase or better the relationship that these individuals who go there have with this God of theirs.
Right.
Okay. Tell me where the politician and their politicking comes in, unless they've come in as just Mwananchi Mtukufu who's come in for a service like everybody else. People talk about state capture, church capture.
But who has captured the church? The politician?
Actually, it's a valid question you ask. Politics has captured the church.
And there are many people who practices politics, politicians, and in some cases, church leaders alike.
Because, and you know part of the reason why?
And mostly church members. I'm coming back to that point. If the membership, it is an evolving situation.
Just because you accept something doesn't mean it's right.
And
just because you accept something or that you're in the practice of it severally,
who determines what's
consistently,
right? Who
doesn't mean it's okay.
Actually,
what was the place set up for in the first place?
Why don't you ask me that question?
Who determines what's right, City?
I do.
So, in your church, when a politician comes in, step out. The others who determine that it is right will sit. They have no problem.
Actually, what you
the
say,
people who were sitting there as they saw their leaders in church this Sunday, and they were speaking to them, and they also stood up, and as the clergy were raising their hands to bless the political leader, they also extended their hands to bless the political leader. They have no problem.
Indeed.
They should do it elsewhere.
Indeed, what Eric is saying is true.
Of course it is.
I would be able to verify that truth and consider it an absolute truth if the opposite were shown to be also true. What do I mean? If indeed a pastor stood up and said, we are not going to allow you to speak, and the people in the church said, no, we want him to speak,
that's different.
Then I would say, yes, Eric, valid point. In church, people will follow their leader. if the pastor, the preacher, the reverend, the bishop does something, the flock sort of like flip
this way. The same tweet that you read of the very Reverend Sammy White. Look at the comments that were. Just look at it. Everybody. There is not one comment
those who
that
agree
anybody.
with him
There is not one comment there
with
that said, actually, we should give these people an opportunity to speak in
not
church.
One.
Actually, not one.
Those who agree with the very Reverend Canon Sammy Wainaina posted and agreed with him. However, I'll remind you, Archbishop Jackson Ole Sapit, was it last year? He even released a statement and said, we are not going to be accepting, in church, we are not going to be doing this and the other. Has it happened? No. The Catholic clergy, the Catholic bishops have also released a statement saying the same. Are we seeing politicians in the Catholic Church? We have. This story has quoted the Secretary General of the PCEA Church saying, let's not do this. Have we seen people in PCEA Church? Yes, they have. What does that tell you?
He also admits, same gentleman admits that it is difficult to enforce such a rule. They've admitted that it's difficult. It doesn't move.
Why?
Hold on. It doesn't move them away from the fact that they are not comfortable with it. Why has it been difficult? He said that churches have tried but failed again and again in the recent past. The sad thing is that pastors have now realized that this is harvest season. They also see that it is an opportunity for them to receive from these politicians who are coming out and giving it away in plenty. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
I think that's Archbishop Ole Sapit being very, very, very...
do we accept it, or do we say actually
condescending of church leaders?
Why?
Because he just wants to break it down and say, it's because they want money, it's because they want to harvest. Not necessarily. It's not the fact that every time you see a politician in church, they have brought, goodies and baskets of goodies. They've just come in because they want to speak to the people.
They want to politic. They want to politic.
No. I'd like Eric to repeat what he just said.
They just want to speak to the people.
Yeah. And then they attended church.
When
and after church,
speak to the people, what are they doing actually?
Politicking.
But they're not bringing harvest to the church.
They do. They may not necessarily carry.
They may not flash it about and come from the pulpit and say, here is
from
my
the
envelope.
Church. You've got to get the difference.
Whichever way you want to look at it, whether they're bringing harvest or whether they're harvesting votes, they are politicking.
Politicking is fine. I'm just saying, Jackson Ole Sapit, the Archbishop, here, by just reducing the whole matter and saying it's harvest season, and therefore...
Yeah, it is.
This thing
happened.
There is
an intent.
It was the same last year. Was it harvest season last year? Was it harvest season the year before? So it's a constant harvest season in church. Is that what the Archbishop is telling us? No. The Archbishop ought to look and understand why is it that even after he has issued orders to... The Anglican Church is a very well-structured church, right? Mm-hmm. There's only one Archbishop in the country. One. There's no, dispute of leadership. It's clear he is at the top of the church. When he speaks, his clergy listen. How come his clergy haven't listened? He ought to look at that and not just say, it's harvest season and all these things. But let's take a break, and then we'll hear from you. 28 minutes after 8, this is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, 0719-012-600. We'll pick your calls after this. Good morning.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
In the quest of saving an ailing son, Sonia does the unthinkable. Will the guilt of her misdeeds haunt her, or will she come clean? Catch Mother's Guilt at 6 p.m. every Monday to Friday, only on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi. In some parts, the sun will come out. Highs of 25 and lows of 15 today. Light rain in Nyeri at 14. Highs of 23 and lows of 14. Partly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 17. Going to highs of 24, it'll come down to lows of 14. 12 will be the low in Eldoret, where it's sunny at 15, going to highs of 23. 29 will be the highs recorded in Kisumu. Light rain at 22. It's also 22 and raining in Kakamega, highs of 28. 30 will be the high in Mombasa. It's raining at 25. Light rain at 27 in Malindi. Highs of 29 and lows of 25. Cloudy conditions at 22 in Uganda. In Kampala specifically, 28 will be the high and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam is cloudy this morning at 25. Highs of 30 and lows of 23. It's 13 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg. Highs of 28 and lows of 8. 31 will be the high in Lagos. Partly cloudy, those rains might come back. Lows of 25. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 23 in Kinshasa. Highs of 32 and lows of 23.
Spice up your life.
All right, that thicker road situation looking a little bit better, and then that traffic that then is coming closer and closer. On the Thika Superhighway, Kiambu Road also quite some this morning, then joining with that. Traffic then coming in from Limuru Road, quite heavy today. It's bumper to bumper all the way into the city. And then at the middle of the city as well, the CBD, quite a lot of traffic coming in from major roads in the city today. Gong Road is quite packed, as is Langata Road. Bagadhiwe will give you that option, and then you might join the City Mortuary roundabout and then out without too much of a headache. But the bypasses will help out this morning as well. Let's keep an eye on things, shall we? Are you stuck somewhere? Let us know. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
28 minutes to 9. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues in the Situation Room this and every weekday morning between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. is Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga. What we are discussing this hour is politicians and the church. Should politicians be allowed to speak in places of worship? Should politicians be allowed to speak in places of worship? And so where are we drawing the line? Are we talking about inside, at the altar, or in the pews, or outside the doors, or not at all in the church compound?
The problem seems to be at the pulpit. From everything that I've read and listened to, there's no problem in politicians attending church.
No.
There isn't even a problem with them talking to people. It's them being at the pulpit, because it is felt that should be the preserve of the men and women of the cloth.
So can you stand from wherever he is at the pew and just speak in the middle of service? Is that fine?
Speak, no. He can't.
So the issue is speaking during this designated time for service.
The pulpit is it symbolizes, yes. So even when he stands up in church, if they could only just stand up and wave.
And then sit.
And then sit.
Yes.
But we know for a fact.
Like new visitors.
But they can stand up and, give a testimony. To scare ushuhuda.
Even that testimony that you're talking about will be weaved into something else.
Of course, somebody has to talk about the blessings that the Lord has given them and what the vision that the Lord has given them.
Yeah, the vision then going into the land of Canaan in the next 12 or so months.
I listened to a vote of thanks at a funeral recently. It came at the end of the service. I was attending the funeral of a friend of mine. That vote of thanks was long. I got jittery. I actually became uncomfortable because I was supposed to say something. And I had to apologize and say, I'm really uncomfortable saying this because I find that the preacher has already preached. And then the person who's just gone before me, well, he has spoken some. So I'm not sure whether I actually ought to take any more time. And why was I saying this? Because I was looking, I'm saying, this is a funeral. It's my friend's funeral. his family have spoken and people have spoken. There's a lot to think about. Must this be another opportunity for me to actually preach? And then I had a poem I wanted to read. The person preceded me also had his poem. I had to complain and say, I had a poem. Now this guy's come and read his poem. but I still have to read mine anyway.
City, you were scooped. That's what happened.
Yes. The point I'm trying to get at is, you see, whenever a politician sees a crowd, they see voters, potential and otherwise, they see assets that can be harvested. And it is not that they are bad people in this instance. It's just that in that situation, even if they did not intend to start saying the things they say, the moment they stand up, they are going to politicize it.
It will come out.
So don't let them speak.
Don't give an opportunity for that to happen.
Let's hear from Joel in Kericho. Joel, good morning. Hello, Joel.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa.
Unajua mimi maoni yangu sio ni shida. Kuna shida gani mwanasiasa akiongea kwa kanisa?
Sioni.
Hakuna shida, maana unajua ni kwa nini? That is why kama utaki mwanasiasa aongee, mbona una invite akuje afanye harambee kwa kanisa yako? Why?
Even that should not be happening.
No. Mimi mwenyewe kwanza wacha nikwambie leo Eric.
Niambie.
Unajua tukijua leo hii kuna mwanasiasa amekuja mahali fulani kwa kanisa. Sisi tunachaa huko. Kuliko msafiri mhubiri mwako huko. Unaona? So, wajana wanasiasa waongee, wauze sera zao huko, hakuna shida. Kwa by the way, kuna class nyingine wanaenda kwa hizo maniba za politicians. Unaona? Wanadai na wao, wanaongea na wao, wanaambia mkuje nini, wanachokea huko. So, mbona mnakataka tena waongee kwa kanisa? There's no problem at all.
No problem at all.
Wanasiasa waongee na raia kanisani, matanga, kila mahali.
Thank you, Joel. Siku njema. Jack in Eldoret, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Yes, I see that issue politicians kuongea kwa chache is very wrong. Unless kama wanataka kutuambia uchumi ni mbaya na ile perception ya kila mwananchi wanakuwa naye kwamba wanasiasa wanado. It's like we are trying to build the church. Hakuna do. So there is no money. So if this person comes wacha tumpe nafasi ya uzesera, maybe atatuachia kabasha. Tunajua ni inji ya mtu mla watu. So at the end of the day ni mutual benefit. That is all. That's why unasikia these people, even when they demand more salary, it's not because tumbo yao ni kubwa. It's because of perception. Kila mtu akipita mahali kiongozi, unaona? So these people when they come there is like unasikia chaji inasema mtu fulani anakuja, yes, unaona, wacha tumsifu, tumwambie hata tutakuwa nyuma yako, unaona, mpaka wanambariki, wanamuombea. At the end of the day unapata sasa hao wamekuja tu pale, wameongea mbaya, wametumia pulpit kutusiana, wengine wanashikana matai. Actually when God comes some people will have to, furniture will move around.
Thank you, Jack. 0719-012-600. Grit says, how is it that clergy don't go speaking at political rallies? There's a time and a season for everything. Certainly don't go to church to listen to their ilk. Well, Louis Kabiru says, the issue is not politicians speaking in churches. It's that the church leadership is morally bankrupt, unlike in the 90s, and doesn't call out the BS of politicians. Besides Father Dolan, is there any other church leader who's fighting injustices? Well, yes, Louis, we can talk about the provost of the All Saints Cathedral. He's come out very, very clearly on more than one occasion to raise issues. Ahmed in Kisumu, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, and I hope you are also good.
Yes.
We are all fine.
Now, my take on the issue of politicians and the pulpit is that a church, a mosque, a synagogue, or a temple, these are places of worship. And I believe the politicians visit these places strictly for worship purposes. Anything other than worship, then it amounts to defiling the pulpit. So I believe politics has its place, worship has its place, so let us respect these spaces, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Ismail in Kericho, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Should politicians be allowed to speak in these places of worship?
You see, politicians we have politicians who are Christians. Yes, and they have sometimes they have some good things for the church. And I see no problem if our politicians come to church and support the church. We've seen most of the churches that are not built. But through the support of these politicians, we've seen churches being built. So if the Christians in the church cannot raise the money to build a church, we can allow them to come so long as they don't bring in politics of division to the church. But as long as they come...
So they can contribute, but they should not speak.
Bringing politics to the church.
But they can speak.
Yes, but they can speak. They can speak. They can bring their contribution. It is even better for them to bring it to the church than sometimes we see the politicians using public funds, misusing public funds, and it is not developing anyone. So if the money is brought to the church, I think it is not bad.
Thank you, Ismail. Have a lovely day. Daniel in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, City, Ndu, and the town.
Good morning,
Good
Daniel.
morning.
I'm just having this question. That is our Christian God of the politics than the Muslim one. Because I've not seen politicians doing their politics in any mosque. And apart from that, we have a leader, President Boy, was a politician and a God-fearing man. He never used the pulpit to make his announcement in politics. What we have to do is that church should distance themselves from these leaders who are being given pulpit. In fact, they are adulterating the pulpit. And who puts the shot? Because the church leaders are the people who are inviting the politicians to come and address the congregants. So they become like a co-preacher of this church. In fact, a politician is being given more airtime than the sermon itself. So it's upon the religious figures to check what makes worshippers to church than their interest to invite the politician.
Thank you, Daniel. Isaac in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I just wanted to contribute on something.
Yes.
When I'm a Catholic, and I remember when I was young, there used to be these parish halls. And we would go to church, and after church, all these other businesses would be handled in the parish halls. So I believe that was a way to show that the church, when you're going to church, you're going to pray.
Yeah.
When you have other businesses, you go and do them in the parish hall. Like the weekly meetings about people how you guys are supposed to relate as families with other people.
Yeah.
But when you find that this is a sacred place, and you don't soil a sacred place by bringing in politics. We believe the church, the mosque, the temples are sacred places. So when you're putting up somebody who you believe, so the church puts up somebody at the pulpit, of course the congregation will believe that person is sacred or something of the sort. That person is powerful or that person. So they make us believe that these people, the church makes us believe that these people are very good to us. And that's where the problem comes around.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Audrey in Kino, good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning, Audrey.
Politicians speaking in churches is a no for me. And you see the way you were saying that in most this doesn't happen. It's because the politicians who are Muslims actually respect their religion and they respect their religious leaders, and they know that this is something that's not supposed to be happening in this environment. But our Christian politicians is like they couldn't care less what their religious leaders are saying. they are the ultimate. So for me, it's a definite no.
Okay.
In churches, in funerals, it is not the time nor the place for politics.
Thank you, Audrey. Juvenalis Amima in Nyamira. Good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah. Now, this issue of politicians in the pulpit. I can imagine you are given food, nyama na samaki. Kule vizuri ushibe. Before you even relax, somebody anakuja kupatia uchafu hapo kwa chakula tena juu. Can you imagine? Because going to church is a holy place. Surely the congregants are given good spiritual food.
Nourishment.
And nourishment, exactly, madam. And I imagine somebody coming up again with a lot of bullshit. Now imagine, for instance, we don't expect all the members in that congregation to support this politician. Who do you expect this congregant? This somebody who come to get spiritual nourishment to do. Will he go out or she go out to church?
That's true. Very good point made. Thank you, Juvenalis. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, Station Room.
Good morning.
How are you?
Very well.
Just like many people are saying, politicians on the platform of the church is a desecration. But look at the scenario. Let's remove the word politician. Let's look at someone wealthy. Whenever someone wealthy visits a church, the church sees that it's gotten that time to milk something out of the man for development of the church. And most likely, even if you're not a politician and you're wealthy, you visit a church, most likely you'll be given a chance to greet the people. Just because they want to get that chance of recognizing you and they can milk something out of you. When it is a politician, first of all, they see a wealthy man. They don't see a politician. They see a wealthy man. But now when you give a politician a microphone, it doesn't matter if it's a church, is a burial, is anywhere. At the end of the day, majority, 99% of them will introduce and talk about politics, even if it's small. So it's something, as long as we look at the wealthy people, as people we can milk something from to develop our churches, it's something that is very, very hard
to fight,
to not to do with it, because we cannot fight it even if we say what the politician. If for example, I take an example of the DP. A DP will not visit your church and you don't recognize him. You don't give him the mic. Even a county commissioner, even a DO, sometimes someone rich, someone wealthy comes to a church, he will be recognized. Give a politician a mic,
Anthony.
Expect him to say something politics.
Thank you. David Mwangi.
Hello.
Good morning. How is Eldoret?
I'm good. Nilikuwa nataka nichangie hiyo niseme ya kwamba kanisa na siasa ni vitu mbili, huwezi tenganisha. When you go to the history, David is the one who, David was a politician, is the one who built the temple. So we should give politicians a chance. Even if you go to Romans chapter 13, verse 1 to 4, it says when Paul told the Romans to fight the Antichrist. You see that is even siasa na kanisa zinatikana.
Was he inside the church? Was he inside the church?
Yeah, he was inside the church when he advised the Romans to fight the Antichrist. Yeah, even if you go to Revelation chapter 17, verse 3 to 7, when Paul was speaking about Christ's political consciousness, Christian political consciousness. So I think the church and politics are two
They are inseparable.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. And you spoke about the example with David. Some of the comments on social media. Cartel is saying, so who's a politician? Now we're talking about a politician being allowed to speak. So who is a politician. Tear gas Benjamin Musyoka.
Oh.
It's very hard to separate politics from modern church. Prosperity, gospel is more of earthly kingdom. Pastors and politicians have similar goals of owning a big house in the best neighborhoods and living flashy lifestyles. But Stephen is asking, the church that of Timothy Njoya, Father Kaiser, that called on the barbaric acts of the government of the day and fought for the oppressed, died. Now it's all about prosperity gospels. Benson says it's a big no. They should be banned from the places of worship. And very many other comments that are coming in on social media. Other than preach the gospel, not at all. That's what Jose is saying. Whether they are bringing funds required for the church, kutoa ni moyo. If you have to bring politics to church so that you can contribute, please do not contribute. Most of the callers have said it's a big, big no for politicians to speak in church, for politicians to speak at funerals. Okay? Yet, politicians are speaking in church and politicians are speaking in funerals, and nobody's raising a finger when they're doing that.
Yes, because people tend to be at their best behavior when they are in these religious places.
Sure.
The normal shouting people down until, well, there are religious organizations that will prove me wrong on this account, because I've seen religious organizations where people settle differences with weapons, rungus. Yes, but I'm not referring to those exceptions. By and large, when people go to their places of worship, they are their best behavior.
Under the custodianship of their church leader.
Yes.
I'm telling you, they listen. And even that thing that you say about raising hands and blessing the leader when they're told to, you would be very surprised that in a different setting, they would be saying different things out of the same mouth.
You know, there are very many cases, Ndu, where the congregation disagrees with its leader.
Yes.
Very many cases. What do you see happening? People even move out of that church.
Yes, they do.
They go to another church.
Yes.
Okay? So if the congregation was disagreeing with a certain leader, because every time we just keep seeing politicians so and so in this church, politician this and the other in this church, and they felt strongly that this is wrong, they'd move.
Actually,
they'd raise a voice.
The differences that we often see in churches has to do not so much with the congregation, but it's a leadership wrangle. Somebody in a position of some authority in the church thinks this
in a certain way,
and they have people who think like them, and they can't seem to get the thinking together, and people separate.
And because of that, they leave.
Yes, I've told you of this wonderful story that I once heard. Wonderful in the sense that there was a finality to it. People disagreed about a church building. One group just went and brought down the building, just,
After all, it's one of contention.
Yes, so that everybody could just be on the same page. And these are Christians, or they say they are. You know, I go back to something that I mention from time to time, so this time again I will mention it. It's our love for hypocrisy and duplicity. Okay? Speaking from both ends of the mouth and ears and eyes.
Yes.
People love politicians. People love to listen to politicians. However, that having been said, there ought to be some demarcation, my friend. Just like we understand that there are certain discussions you don't have in front of your children, there are certain things you don't say in front of certain... We understand that every human being understands decorum. When you're an adult, you understand it.
There's a place and there's places
a time and a place, yes,
for everything.
Yes.
And you can apply this anywhere. It's the same way I tell my boys, don't play football in the house. Go play football outside. There's a place demarcated for that. Go do it in places that is acceptable, that you can do that and you can break and do whatever it is that you want to do. In this space, it shouldn't happen because it's set for other things. It's the same thing. The reason why this place was set up, and those who allow it to happen, whether it's preachers, whether it's audiences, congregation, it doesn't matter who it is. They're saying that this place was set aside for this thing. Leave it at just that. This politicking that you want to do, there is a myriad of other places where you can harvest these votes, or harvest this congregation, or harvest your people who are going to follow you. Take it outside there and leave this place for what it was meant to be. And I do feel that there are a lot of church leaders who've lost their voice and have not been able to stand their ground, because that's what they say. Give it an inch, they'll take a mile. And that was what has happened over time.
Why have church leaders being unable to raise their voice.
Because
to act on this.
you started and allowed 1 and 2, and then it became a norm.
I don't think they've lost their voice. I don't think so. I actually think that the new religion in these Christian churches is what you call secularism, meaning God talk a little bit here and there, but by and large,
what has brought us here is
we just allow everything
else. It's a fellowship.
We allow everything else that happens.
It's a fellowship. We are here to live our life.
Now,
okay?
those
And then
few
we remind ourselves.
Now, those few voices that you hear that would sound as though they're going against the grain of what is the norm are the ones who are saying, get away from that place. Where this place has become, remember Jesus at that time where he went and saw everything happening in the church, and what did he do? He became violent and kicked them all out. And people actually said he was bringing acts of violence kicked them out, because this is not the place where this thing should be happening. Now, those few voices, the Reverend Canon here, the Archbishop here, and those who are saying things here and there, are the few ones who are saying, this fellowship, we're coming to behave as if it's a circus. Stop it. That's what they're saying. That we've allowed secularism in, that we've allowed this and other things in. Stop it. And that's the point. Do not allow these things to take a precedence in a place that it was not meant to be in the first place. And that's the point of all of these things. Move it to where it can be.
One of the things that people do very well is they observe. And a congregation observe their spiritual leaders, even when they're no politicians. If your life has been compromised, sometimes even your ascension to the position that you're in was compromised, or it was less than spiritual or less than moral, and you are in a place of seeming authority, your congregation knows it. So, again, as I said, perhaps the best way of stopping the hypocrisy is for people to come out and say, you know something, let's stop pointing these fingers. We ourselves like this thing and we allow it, and this is what we've been doing. Now, if you turn around and find it is wrong, then say so and let your action speak for you. Don't talk about it. Do something about it.
Yeah. Let those who are speaking against it because they strongly believe that they have an issue against it, let them speak out. But also listen and ask yourself, so why is it so widespread? Why is it so widespread? Maybe it's speaking about something, about the people, about the congregation itself.
It is.
Time for us to take a break and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. Thank you very much for watching. But these conversations continue on SpiceFM into the next hour up to 10 o'clock. You can switch over to SpiceFM 94.4 if you're in Nairobi. If you're in Malindi, 97.7. Are you in Eldoret? It's 96.7. Nyeri, 90.9. 96.0 in Nakuru. 87.9 in Mombasa. And 102.5 in Kisumu.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say, I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to
it's
start
coming
your
up
day.
to the top of the hour, and this is Kenya's biggest conversation. Patrick says, I don't blame the politicians. It's the leadership of the churches who are greedy and are using the pulpit to make money for their own benefits. Yeah? Sylvanus Barasa says, the church is under captivity. The church is under captivity by politicians. Let them just respect their creator. Yeah, but Joshua Nsogo says, no, I don't agree with this particular issue. All right, when money enters the church through the door, love, caring, common sense, and wisdom leave through the window. That's the Grand Mullah. Kenya's biggest conversation continues into the next hour, and we thank you very much for contributing. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, or 0719-012-600. In the next hour, we continue with this in simple form, some of your thoughts and comments. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Days after 3 people were killed in Cheptulel by suspected bandits from Marakwet West Pokot, Senator Samuel Pogisha has called on the security apparatus to track down the perpetrators and take legal action against them. Pogisha emphasized the need for leaders from Pokot and Marakwet to hold talks with residents of the 2 counties to maintain peace.
Na watu wanaendelea na kazi za kawaida, shule ziendelee na kujichunga tu. Sasa kuangalia kwamba mnachunga watoto wakienda shule, yani sasa wazazi wao pia wakae chonjo, wakae barabarani, wasaidie watoto wakienda shule na kurudi, walimu wasaidike pia.
The misunderstanding between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto continues to raise concern among Kenyans and leaders alike. Kwesero MP Christopher Aseka is now asking the National Cohesion and Integration Commission to end the ongoing dispute between the 2 leaders. Aseka has said the current differences threaten national security and unity if they are not resolved soon.
Na tumemsihi rais wetu na naibu wake William Samoei Ruto, kama kuna makosa warekebishe. Hiyo vita tunaanza kuona haileti raha. Na wale watu wa National Cohesion tunataka waite rais na naibu wake, wawaambia kwamba presidency is a symbol of national unity. Tukiona kama kuna tofauti kwa presidency, nchi inaanza kutetemeka. Watu wanaanza kuwa na wasiwasi.
As the world economies struggle to bounce back following the COVID-19 pandemic, Tourism CS Najib Balal expects visitor numbers to get back to pre-COVID level in 2023. To achieve this, the CS seeks to have tourists visiting the country to be exempted the 10-day mandatory quarantine once they test negative upon entry.
Recovery year will be 2021, and then the numbers that come of 2019, which is over 2 million people, will be 2023. The issue of quarantine discourages visitors. We want to open up, and the country is opened. And Kenya, the good thing is we are not rigid in that. We only need PCR tests to be negative. But also, if we need our scientists to prove that if you are double vaccinated, you are much safer. Do you need a PCR anymore?
A 74-year-old man is expected to be arraigned in court in Nyeri County following an attempted suicide. Area Police Commander Robert Ndambiri said the suspect, John Ayuka Asanyo, reportedly locked himself in his bedroom and set himself on fire with the intention of committing suicide after an argument with his wife. Ndambiri said the suspect's efforts were unsuccessful as villagers in collaboration with security officials managed to extinguish the fire and arrest him. Harambee Stars' preparations for the forthcoming 2022 World Cup qualifiers got a shot in the arm after lead striker Michael Olunga, goalie Ian Otieno, Eric Ouma, Richard Odada, striker Masood Juma and midfielder Kenneth Muguna joined camp and took part in the team's training session at the Kasarani. The team will hold their final training session tomorrow as they prepare themselves to face Uganda Cranes on Thursday at the Nyayo National Stadium. All you can do is wish them the very best as they represent the country. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It continues on Mombasa Road this morning, and still that Weybridge area, then getting towards the SGR. Still quite heavy is what we're looking at right now. Looking at other parts of the city, we still see some traffic. Especially around the CBD. We're coming from the Uhuru Highway all the way into the CBD this morning, and that is quite heavy as we see it. All right, let's look at the Thika Superhighway coming into the city. Not too much of an issue, except right around the right around the Pangani underpass, getting out towards the city centre. So let's keep an eye on that. We're also seeing some traffic then. And there was that issue that we saw on North Airport Road, looking a lot better now. Langata Road is still tight, and we're still seeing traffic on Gong Road heading out into the city. We'll keep an eye on this and look in about half an hour what it looks like now. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Get in touch with us there or text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the
5
only
minutes
way
after
to
9,
start your
Kenya's
day.
biggest conversation. This is the final hour, and we thank you very much for always tuning in and staying through all the hours. CT, today's proverb, tafadhali.
He who has never traveled thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
Okay.
It's true.
When you came to Kenya, did you find a better cook than your mother?
Oh, that one go hard you. My mother is a Delta woman.
Yeah.
It's hard to
cook
that are better than Delta chicks.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Right. It's also very difficult to admit when that your mother is not all that. That's part of the bigger problem.
No, but it also depends on what you're cooking, right? If you ask my mom,
not just about cooking, about anything.
Cream escargot, I tell you, my mother will cook it terribly. If you go to a French chef, they probably cook it much better.
Who? What?
Do what?
That thing you mentioned.
There's cream and then there's cargo.
I think I'll let that one pass. I don't have to know everything.
Yeah. But if you ask my mother to cook banga soup and fufu, come on.
Soup did I get? Banga? Who is banga?
Ogbonna and Eba. Can't compare.
What is banga soup?
It's the soup of the palm fruit. You know, in Kenya, you guys name your sauces for the protein. We name our sauces and soups for the ingredient.
What is a palm fruit?
It is like a coconut.
It's much smaller. It's much smaller, and it's actually where you get palm oil from.
It's smaller.
Yes, the fruit of that particular species of palm tree is about yay big.
So it's like a shilling. I see.
Really?
So essentially, this banga soup is a vegetable soup.
It is.
Or is it a fruit soup?
It's the soup of that palm fruit.
Soupy.
But you put other things inside, fish,
Like?
meats.
Oh!
That's what I'm saying. In Kenya, you name your soups for the protein.
No.
Fish stew, chicken stew, beef jalabi.
What she's just described,
Rishi.
Do you know what soup it is? Mashakura.
No, actually, no. Because I've seen that, and I'm very sorry to say.
You said everything in it.
It's very far from that.
No, it is just everything is just mashakura. It's tubukisa. Let's talk about this middle class. Who's middle class, by the way, guys?
Well, it's who fits the definition of middle class and who thinks they're middle class.
Okay.
And in that context, we have to actually ask the question, when you talk to a Kenyan and you ask them about wealth, and you put in the context of who in your mind fits the definition of somebody who's wealthy, what do they need to have? When you answer those questions, then you'll have a clear idea of what a Kenyan believes a middle class is.
The middle class is a socioeconomic group which consists of people who are not very rich, but are also not very poor. According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, This social class is in Nairobi in terms of expenditure, with household spending of 46,000 or less per month, falling under the Nairobi lower expenditure group. There are 46,000 people. The Nairobi upper expenditure group consists of 184,000, spends over 184,000 shillings a month, translating to a daily spending of between 1,540 and 6,000 for the middle class in the capital city. People who are spending over 184,395 shillings per month. And this is on everything. Okay? On fuel, on rent, on
spending.
Yes.
That's the key, spending.
This is spending.
Not necessarily earning.
No. You used to deal now
I shouldn't mix up my issue.
No. According to the 2019 census, there were 758,710 families, or 6.3%, who owned cars in Kenya. Car ownership is one of the main features of the middle class. You know, how we define ourselves. Drive car, by end of 2019, there were only 84,000 permanently employed workers who took home more than 100,000 shillings per month. This is against a total wage employment of 2.9 million people. So out of 2.9 million people, the number of people who earn 100,000 shillings and more per month are only 84,000. Okay? A majority would be in a lower... So earning 100,000 shillings a month are only 84,000, but there are 184,000 who spend 184,000 shillings or more. Okay? So, who's the middle class? And what is it that defines the middle class? Is it where you live, where your kids go to school, whether you drive or not, where you work, whether you work or not? Is it expenditure or is it the income?
I think in this case, it should be the income, right?
Right.
But in this case, I think it's being defined by the expenditure, because unfortunately, then you'll find a lot of people in this middle class that we are talking about, where a lot of us now fall in. Now using other means to then be able to spend this money.
Side hustles.
Or borrowing.
Just so that we understand, me, I'm not middle class.
You're what?
Me, I'm poor.
Okay,
just
you're
so
lower.
This is from what? From your income or from your expenditure?
No, my knowledge of myself. I am poor.
So the unfortunate thing. So then maybe you want to say then you have a forced middle class.
This is one of those Kenyans. There are Kenyans who also fall in that category, okay? You'll find meet a guy walking out of DT Dobby, brand new swanky, brand new motor vehicle, Mercedes Benz. Tunajaribu tu bana.
Hii mwezi ilikuwa ngumu.
Mambo.
Nikupe lift.
The Kikuyu say, no kogaria man. We're just trying.
But I'm poor.
Yeah. You ask that person for a kaharambe. Unajua bana. There's a famous lady who's said, where every time people go to her for harambe, they're like, you know, I'm a widow.
That look?
You know, I'm a widow. Everybody in the country and beyond know her to be a multi-billionaire. Yeah, you know, I'm a widow.
I didn't say I was a widow. So, those looks you're giving me, am I not allowed to self-determine my socioeconomic status? Surely. Huh? See, I'm the one who knows.
So that's what I'm saying now. Is it forced? Because then this lifestyle that we're talking about, you want to be able to drive a car, you have 3.5 children and they're in the best school, and then you're able to afford, a certain kind of school fees, live in a particular area.
Wait,
but
they afford the school fees bit.
3.5 children.
Yes.
Afford the school fees. At least pay for...
Everything about what you're saying about the middle class has to do with appearances.
This is what I'm saying.
Yes.
So now, the sources of this money for these expenses is now something that's being questioned and saying, is this middle class being defined by your income, or is it being defined by your expenditure? And we'll find that a lot of cases now, there is the need or the pressure to keep up with certain appearances to then be defined within this middle class. So you will borrow to put your children in a particular school. You will borrow to live in a certain area to keep up. So we have a lot of things happening with, credit card debt, etc., etc. Borrow to keep up certain appearances. And so it then causes a lot of pressure on these individuals. So should it not then be defined by then what you're able to earn and what you're able to then access comfortably? Because if you're defining it by expenditure, then it's a forced class.
The spending rate for the middle class is a varied one, as the sources you consult, okay? So, according to Kenya, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, it's all about spending, by the way. None of them is about income. It's how you spend, the spending power. Those that spend between 46,000 and 184,000 per month are what is classified by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics as the middle class. So those are people who are spending between 1,540 per day and 6,160 per day. 1,540. Fuel, lunch, breakfast, 1,540. And sit you say you're poor. If you spend just that much, you are middle class.
I spend 200.
The African Development Bank puts the middle class band at a daily expenditure of between 220.
See?
So you're in the lower.
Me, I'm below. When I'm telling these things, you guys are.
And 2,200. The World Bank, on the other hand, estimates that a middle class is somebody who spends between 1,100 and 5,500. So the World Bank is what's closer to our National Bureau of Statistics. Okay? So this is what is basically who we are classifying as middle class.
Yes.
Now, for somebody who is able to spend 46,000 shillings a month, up to 184,000 shillings a month, that means you're already earning more than 46,000 shillings a month. Now, how many Kenyans earn 46,000 shillings and above?
Very few.
In a month.
Very few.
Yet, how many Kenyans live this lifestyle of the middle class?
Very many.
Why?
Aspirations, my friend. People aspire to a good life. And a good life for many people is characterized by conspicuous consumption. The car you drive. And it is for that same reason and thinking that having a car is considered a sign of wealth. I always find it odd. This is a net consumer. This thing called a car. It consumes.
Yes. And it's depreciating in value every day.
Every day.
It's not an asset.
Yes. But people know that when you drive a car, that is what they use as
well,
an
you can afford to spend. It's an indicator.
I'm saying you can afford to drive.
You can afford to buy it.
Yes.
And you can afford to spend on it.
Yes.
Every day it's on the road.
Yes.
That means that you're doing well.
That means they can assume you are doing well. Yes. Because, in all honesty, why I keep referring to the appearances of it is due to the simple reason that you cannot put a cap on aspiration. You cannot sort of like say that someone cannot aspire to do something that they perhaps are not able to now but hope to. Yes. What may be an issue is living in the future, as in spending future money when you don't even have it in the present. That's where the borrowing comes in. And sometimes borrowing beyond the capacity that you have to pay. Because the understanding of money, having it, spending it, ought to be, what do you have that generates it for you? Now, here we're talking about spending and not talking about the source. So what then happens? Entrepreneurship comes into being so that at every level of a society, everyone is a wannabe entrepreneur. It's opportunities that perhaps may escape you, but the opportunity to entrepreneur is at the focus of it. Because why? You need to live conspicuously.
I think also, City, there is a pressure of life, not just of wanting to keep up with the Joneses or your appearances. It's a reality of your life. The reality of your life is that you live in one corner of the city and you work in where you found a job is a different part of the city. Okay? So, what does that mean? That means that you've got to think about commuting. Then, because of the kind of work that you do, you may be working late. Because of the kind of work that you do and where you live and the availability of schools in your area, you may have to think about taking your children to school. So all these things now add up to the reasons why people do the things that they do. So you have gone to live in a certain area, one, because school. A good school is available in this, close to this area. So you go and live there. How far is it from your workplace? You consider that as well. So will you want to buy a vehicle or will you want to be depending on the matatus? How many matatus do you have to use to get to your workplace? After you've alighted the last matatu, how far do you need to walk to get to your workplace or to get home? So all those considerations, you see, if you can afford it, you go and buy the vehicle. The other thing is, if you can afford it, then you pay rent in this particular area because you want the best for your child who has a school near here. So it's all these pressures of life that now lead you into spending this kind of money. So you're basically spending 80%, 90%, 100% of your income into just sustaining your life. And that's why they say you're just one paycheck away from poverty. Or just one disease, one hospitalization away from poverty. And that's how very many people are living. It's just because of you are forced to live where you live because of how things are. You're not the one who determines how much rent is going to be. It's a market. You're not the one who's going to determine how much school fees is going to be.
No, you're not.
It's a market.
No, but you're the one who's going to determine where you live. You're the one who's going to determine where your children go to school. And I actually do not consider it negative for someone to aspire. Not really. Because it means that when people aspire, they are hopeful. And when people are hopeful, it means they'll keep trying. Why I brought into entrepreneurship, it's because it is a direct link to money that you can access.
At a go.
Yes.
That can sort you out.
Yes.
In very many of these daily challenges that you have.
Yes. So that even if someone had not purposed their lives to take a certain direction, but because of the decisions they've made, where they want to live, where the children want to go to school, what they want to drive and all that, the pressure that you speak of, then applies pressure for you to consider.
To look for other income generating activities.
That ordinarily you may not have considered. Now, this seems to be this vortex that many Kenyans find themselves in. This never-ending vicious cycle of always trying to do this, trying to put this, trying to put the other. And then there's a different level of it as well. It's not just, why I mentioned conspicuous consumption, it's not just getting on, you are talking about someone just getting on day to day, basic things, rent, food, children, basic. No. It often goes, when that seems to have stabilized to a certain degree, it often goes beyond that. Now, it's not just a question of where you live, but what sort of house you live in.
Of course. And the furniture in the house.
Those details.
Yeah. It moves from that point
And then it isn't just a car you drive, it's what sort of car.
What model of car?
Yes.
How do you dress?
Yes.
How do you spend your weekends? Where are you taking your children for, Sunday afternoon? Are they just playing out there or are you taking them somewhere?
And when they go on holiday, do they go to visit your relatives in the rural home you came from? Or do they go to Mombasa or do they leave the country?
It matters.
Now you see, again, it's aspirational.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because there's a certain appearance or a certain condition that a lot of people are trying to keep up with or live up to. And if you find that a lot of times it's not necessarily whether it's fulfilling your needs, because you'll probably be able to find out that things of that you have to spend less for will be able to fill those needs beautifully.
Yeah.
But then you're also thinking of what other
So there's
people
societal pressure.
will think. Yes. It plays a big role here in terms of who enters this class that we're talking about.
So is this
in terms of who operates within
consumerism?
this class.
Is this consumerism being driven by just society, or is it also being driven by business?
Well, I think it's both.
Oh, it's both. It's actually both.
Yeah.
It's actually both. But business plays a very, very important role in this sense. When you talk about consumerism, you're talking about business because these are things we consume. Everything we mentioned here is part of our consumption.
Yes.
Okay? Now, there are people who always want to tie the good life, the good living, success with items, goods, consumer items, consumer durables. They're closely tied with this. And it is like this indicates this. If you drive a teeny weeny little car that looks like an overgrown matchbox, somebody says this guy is suffering. Maybe you've decided, this thing hardly consumes fuel. Okay? And you can park it almost anywhere. Good thing also, you don't have enough space to give more than one person a lift. So it's a good car. But other people consider, why doesn't he just buy a motorbike? Because this one is actually a motorbike with 4 wheels. All right? Now, whenever people take status and make it the fundamental push in their lives, then all these things that we're talking about then become important and become the focal point. So it is not just middle class. It's now middle, you categorize lower, middle, upper. Now, the unfortunate thing is that for many people, this classification is something that we are saying is part of our discussion here. As far as they're concerned, you think they're middle class, then they know they're rich.
They've reached. They're rich and they've reached.
They've reached.
Yes, they have.
They have already hit that point.
They have, because these are things that they aspire to have, and they have it, and other people also, because it's not just you.
There are other people who are looking at them and feeling, wow.
Yes, and they treat you as though you are wow.
Yes.
So you then believe that you are wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, also this conversation where we are looking at it from the point of what has happened during these COVID-19 times, okay? In terms of job losses, in terms of income losses, and then also in terms of the impact on business. People have had to shut down their businesses. What has that done to them as individuals and their businesses? And what does that speak about the society? And then the third thing is the mental health situation that we're talking about. Because if we have gotten to become a society that is defined by how we consume and how we live and how we portray ourselves to the people, when you change that, when you remove that, then the identity is sort of lost. So somebody is left wondering, okay, now, surely, this is where I lived, this is where my kids were going to school, so now my kids are not being accepted in school because the school administration says you have not paid school fees for 2 terms. My friend, we are not having this conversation. Your landlord says, my friend, you need to move out. Your bank has come and taken away the vehicle. So you have this now whole different lifestyle to live. And it has an impact on the mental health of people.
It does, actually.
Brought onto ourselves.
Actually, more. It's actually even more than people actually realize. Because you ask yourself, how does an individual view themselves? Is it in terms of what they possess? Is it in terms of the job they have? Is it in terms of everything that is around them? Or is it in the type of, or just the type of person that they are? Now, most people quantify themselves and most people quantify others. You are seen from the perspective of what they think you own, what they think you drive, where they think you live. That enables them to put a price tag to you. You're quantified. Okay? And this race is to be quantified. The ability to consume, the ability to go to certain places, as we were saying, the ability to buy certain things, the ability to be seen in certain... All these things, very many Kenyans do not understand even and I'm saying this sincerely, the basic concept of being a societal dropout. What I mean by societal dropout is actually a status dropout. What do I mean? when everything that somebody pursues is not to meet just their basic needs, but to meet a so-called higher need to be seen as, that's a status need. And that is what brings about even the greater anguish that you're speaking about. Because when, say for instance, something happens to your job, where somebody say, I need to move from where I live and move somewhere that I can afford. They still want to live there.
Yeah.
And all you've then done by that decision is you've piled on more problems, even problems you didn't have, you've now added to the problems.
And the reason why you don't want to move is because you do not want to be viewed
as.
Yes. It equates to failure. Hey, umeona nani?
Yeah, alikuwa na.
This
is the way she was, and then now have you seen
Toka
how
kileleshwa siku hizi nasikia
falling
ako
from
huko
grace?
Kayole. How do you even face your friends?
You don't. At that point,
Some
you
even
have
ask,
them.
is Kayole in, is it in Makueni or is it in Machakos County? He'll say,
Certainly. So you could have gone to Malindi. I hear in Malindi there are cheaper houses. People have moved. They don't realize the issue is you do not have that money, boss. Hey,
But then you find that those who've been able to survive things like this, middle class, call it whatever you want, it's survival, then are able to shut out this noise in terms of the criticism that comes about, oh, you fell from whatever, man. I'm feeding my children. I'm sending them to school.
Yeah.
I'm living. I'm all right. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to fly to Dubai for the summer, as you call it, and be in debt. I'm all right. Those who've been able to survive are the ones who've been able to shut out this noise.
Those have emancipated themselves from that mental
From this
slavery.
mental middle class slavery.
Yes, it's a crisis of identity. That's what we have in this country, a crisis of identity. Let's talk about those who are on the roads and how they should behave. Right? At 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation continues, and we will be taking your calls 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're on the road this morning, listen. It's about Usalama Barabarani, and you ought to know how to behave and what you need to do.
Absolutely. A message from the NTSA and the European Union reminding us of some of the things that we ought to remember when it comes to, are you getting into a public service vehicle this morning? You find that it is actually full. Are you getting into one this afternoon? Have you gotten into one in the recent days? You find that it's full. You actually should not get in. Remember that it only takes a minute to get into a situation that you will not be able to get out of. Can you get out? Yes, you can. You should actually wait for the next one. Don't board or overload matatus or buses. When using a boarder, always remember one passenger at a time and use a helmet. In order to be visible to other road users, wear a reflector jacket. Think about you and think about others. Usalama Barabarani, Fika Salama.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is what?
The weather with Spice FM.
It's cloudy in Nairobi at 19, highs of 25 and lows of 15. We'll see cloudy conditions through most of the day. It's cloudy at 16 in Nyeri, highs of 23. 24 will be the high in Nakuru today, partly sunny at 18. Sunny conditions at 17 in Eldoret, highs of 23. 29 will be the high in Kisumu at 24 currently and mostly cloudy conditions. Raining in Kakamega at 25, highs of 28 and lows of 15. We'll see lows of 23 in Mombasa, highs of 30 and light rain through the day. It's still raining in Malindi at 28, highs of 29 and lows of 25. We'll see 20, lows of 19. In Kampala, it's cloudy at 23. Partly sunny conditions at 26 in Dar es Salaam, with highs of 30 and lows of 23. 8 degrees will be the low in Johannesburg. It's sunny at 16. And mostly sunny conditions at 25 now in Lagos, highs of 31 and lows of 25. 32 will be the high in Kinshasa. It's sunny at 24. Sunny conditions out in Beijing, going to highs of 28 today. 23 will be the high in a cloudy Paris at 16. It's also cloudy in London at 14, highs of 19 and lows of 14. Clear conditions at 26 in New York, highs of 28 and lows of 21.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Spice up your life.
Are you on Langata Road this morning? I'm very sorry because that traffic is not letting up at all. If you're coming off the Southern Bypass, there's an option. Go the longer way and then join with Ngong Road into the city. It's longer. Yes, it is. However, you will not be stuck in traffic. Probably use less fuel. All right, industrial area coming out Lunga Lunga, connecting with Likoni Road, getting to that Likoni Road junction, out then to Enterprise Road. Enterprise Road, not too bad today. We're looking also at Aerodrome Road coming from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Quite packed, guys. Into the city centre this morning. Jeez. Not moving. Very, very heavy traffic. So if you don't have to go into the city, maybe you can avoid it. Use the bypasses. That'll help. That's for sure. Coming off of Thika Superhighway, that connection. You see Kiambu Road coming in from Survey, then Muthui. Not good right now. Still packed, getting into the city. So the city is where it's happening this morning. If you can avoid it, do. And if you don't have to stay there for too long, don't. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Get in touch through the day and text on 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, guys, and we need to continue remembering what it's necessary to do. Drivers, be aware of your surroundings and always watch out for other road users, including motorists, border riders, cyclists, pedestrians, and school children, as they all depend on you for their safety. It does not hurt to share the road. Really, it doesn't. Always wear your seatbelts, use your signals correctly, look around before making any turn, and remember, speed that thrills is speed that kills. Usalama barabarani, fikeni salama. A message brought to you by NTSA and the European Union.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
And we want to hear from you, 0719 012 600. Are you reading the Standard newspaper with us? And you can do that by just accessing it from your mobile device, the Standard e-paper. If you have a telecom line, just dial star 550 star. 1 hash, you get the daily paper. And if you do 3 hash, you get the pullouts for 2 shillings only daily. Today's pullout is the Financial Standard. And the headline in the Financial Standard today is how the fallacy of growing consumer class was born. Fueled by lofty reviews and studies, investors built high-end houses and malls for a cash-rich segment that turned out to be false. When COVID came, it wiped out that class, which means that people who had built those high-end houses and malls were left with no tenants. People who had thought of, investing heavily on that consumer market were left with no consumers. Banks that had lent to this particular segment of the market. So, for example, a 14.9% increase in bad loans recorded the highest growth in the first 3 months of this year, according to the central bank. 14.9% increase in bad loans, non-performing loans. People are not just not being able to pay. Is this middle class real? Is this middle class a fallacy? Are we having an identity crisis? That you feel that you ought to live a certain lifestyle and belong to in a certain way, what you are calling aspirational. But is it all just?
But ask yourself the simple question. COVID notwithstanding, imagine those people who, for instance, in a sector that I worked in for the longest time, donor-funded activities, donor funding always comes to an end. It always does. And you're actually told well in advance when it's coming to an end.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, people don't subscribe to that knowledge. And when it happens, many people end up being in a position where you could say they've been caught flat-footed. Now, imagine you've done what everybody else does. You've gone and gotten yourself a lovely personal loan. You've gone and done this and the other. And you know you have an income. When that donor funding ends, it means that lifestyle that you had also comes to an abrupt end. It's your mention of some of these bad loans that has brought this to my attention. Because suddenly you become, from being somebody who was able to do things, you become someone now who's trying to claw back time and trying to figure out what to do with your life.
Yeah.
But part of the problem is not just that the job comes to an end or the donor funding ends. It is the question, it is a situation that I can best refer to by asking a question. Do we train ourselves to understand what to do or to prepare for an eventuality when the cushy life you now have comes to an end? Do we put money aside for tomorrow? Do we have a culture that looks at what happens if I'm not in the position that I am in?
We'd like to, CT, but look what we said. So you work here. How far from here are you going to live? And that far is also determined by when you're going to live there that far, is there a school nearby that you can take your child? Is there a hospital nearby that you can rush your family in the case of an emergency? If you factor in all those things, if you look at the services that the government should be able to have provided that it hasn't provided, that increases the pressure. I've argued with some people that when we say, there's an annual shortfall of, 30,000 housing units per year in the country, I'm like, no.
Their houses, it's where people want to live.
It's where people live. It's a transport crisis. People would be living in Naivasha and Maimahiu and working in Nairobi if there was proper transport.
They would.
People would be living in Konza and Malili and coming to Nairobi.
People already live in Thika and
Yes.
work in Nairobi. People live in Muranga
And they work in Nairobi.
Yes.
It's an issue of that. So if you consider all those things now, if you want to move, let's say you want to move to Thika, you've seen now some of these big schools that are considered the good schools have also started now putting satellite campuses outside, right? They've gone towards the Thika Road,
They
they've
have.
gone down Mombasa Road. It's because they are seeing this is where people would like to live. But
There's an appetite.
they cannot really live there if we are not there. But if we go there, we are going to get a captive market. So we'd like to save, but iko wapi hiyo pesa?
It's a good question that you ask. It's a good question that you ask because many people, even when they are thrift and they've done all the arithmetic,
It's no balance.
it doesn't add up.
It's no balance, man.
There's a deficit.
Yeah.
You've added, you've done deficit. You try and maneuver it a bit, deficit. So the constant here is a deficit.
Deficits.
Yes.
0719-012-600. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very fine. How are you?
I'm very fine. City and do.
Yes, sir.
We are well, thank you. How are you, Karanja?
I'm very fine here in Naivasha. The weather is good. It's previously cold and not warm. Now, life have become miserable and laborious. Most of the people in the Kenya that we have today, they are spread with people. You know, you cannot be getting a salary of 10,000 and leave a house that you pay 3,500 per month. This is obnoxious. Now, sometimes back, there was a program that used to say kura tano weka tano.
Yep.
Na akiba yozi.
Yep.
Now, most of the Kenyans, they spend a lot of money with nothing. These are baggage. How can you buy 10 pairs of shoes? And the same shoes you cannot wear, all of them at the same time. How can you have
a wardrobe, 10 wardrobes full of clothes. The same times. It is baggage, my friend.
Excess baggage.
Yes, it is excess baggage. You cannot have 10 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
And you expect to wear them at the same time. No.
Wear what you need.
It's like, yes, it is like you have like 10 chickens you want to cook at the same time. And in fact, you cannot eat both of them at the same time. You eat just 200 grams of meat.
And that's it. Thank you, Karanja.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eric. You have a lovely show.
You too. Kennedy in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, and the other guy?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Other guy, how are you?
Oh, the other guy is actually fine, sir. And how are you, the other guy also?
I'm very fine. You know, you're the oldest in the room, and we respect you very much.
I appreciate it, and I thank you.
Okay, so this issue of living below your line, I think that this new generation, we are the ones who like living the lavish lifestyle, the social media life, flaunting everything we do.
So, but what makes people live that way?
Okay, I think the main reason is the social amenities. You know, if we had good health care, we had good education and good transport and everything, I would live anywhere.
Yeah.
So I think that's what should be done. The government should just try and fix these things, and everything should be okay.
Thank you very much, Kennedy.
Okay.
0719-012-600. That's the number to call. So what is it that's driving this kind of middle-class lifestyle? There is aspiration, like City was saying. There is the reality of things, like I'm saying, and we're saying the same thing, I think. And
there's pressure.
There's pressure. There's societal pressure. There's all these things that you're thinking, you know what, I cannot be the one. My classmates, people I went to school with are living this way, and I cannot live this way. Then there is that home domestic pressure.
You know, this is at the heart of very many discussions in very many groupings. You see, women have an advantage when it comes to some of these discussions because they can talk about real things scale 1 to 1 at the drop of a hat, or should I say at the drop of a tear. Okay? Men are slowly learning to get into groupings where they can actually get an opportunity to talk about some of the things that assail them. These pressures that they find themselves surrounded by, or these situations that bring about these pressures. And yet, if you look at the genesis of some of these things, they are not actually nefarious. They're not negative. Somebody wants something good for themselves. That's why I'm calling it aspirational. Somebody would like to be successful. Where the problem comes in is when you focus on the trappings or the accepted manifestations of that success, as opposed to focusing on the success. Now, that's where now you start losing your way and it becomes a problem, because that one is a never-ending downward spiral.
Because you're not dealing with the reality.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Tidgin in Utawala.
Yes, good morning, Eric.
Morning, man. How are you?
I'm fine. It's been long. I've just called also fast to say hi to you guys.
You've done well. We see you on social media. We acknowledge you.
Yeah, I wish that I'll be there one day.
Yes, one day.
Yes. Anyway, you see everybody strive to live a better life. Especially if you see now City saying is not even in the middle class. Then I'm wondering where majority of us, the so-called Mamambogas, are in.
And Pigeon, what makes you think I'm not a Babamboga? Just because I'm on radio?
If you're a Babamboga, there's a side hustle.
Nice one.
Okay.
Which means he cannot be in the middle class.
It's not middle class.
He's already in the middle class. He's having another side hustle in the low class. But you see, when especially the opportunities to ascend to middle class and the upper class are so limited, many people are in the lower class, or maybe this category we are striving in all means possible to ascend, you see? And that makes them go to any other possible way. You see, today they are talking of wash.
Yes.
They say that unakula ujanja yako Nairobi, si jasho yako. So it's very hard, and such scenario is not good for our country at all. When everybody is striving to move to the upper class and you see the opportunity are not enough for them. But then it's just aspiration for better life. If anywhere you are, you want to move to another better life.
So it's
You're
all
not
aspirational.
where you are. Yes.
Thank you, Tijin.
Okay.
Lovely day. Lovely day. Jack in Eldoret.
Yes.
You're back.
Yes. How are you this afternoon?
Hey.
This morning we are fine.
Good morning.
Tuliongea asubuhi na saa hizi ni mchana.
Oh,
so you know here the sun
I see.
Hapa hivi the sun is like inaaka mpaka ndani ya mfuko. You know, hii issue ya kuishi there is no money. No. Like you can find a teacher in our local school here, private. Somebody is being paid 6,000, which analipa rent ndani, anafanya kila kitu, so anabaki bila chochote. Sasa hata afadhali huyo mtu ambao anafanya kazi ya teaching awache aende umaid Nairobi, because anaweza lipa 7,000 na anakula hapo, analala hapo. So a maid is being a house help is a better job than being a teacher nowadays. So unapata there is yani uchumi iko juu, and people want to live good life. Unaona?
Yeah.
Like news, kuna msemo, my wife's proverb inasema mwanamume kuna mahali pesa yake inapoteaga. It doesn't matter if he doesn't drink or he doesn't do atumii drugs, but lazima kuna kitu itakuwa inakula do yake. So tuende tu vile kunaenda. If
Thank you,
life
Jack.
ina yes.
Thank you, Jack. Amani, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
CT, I agree with you. Tenderpreneurship is what is driving this strange gap between spending and actually what people earn. And just to add to that, I think that it's the government actually that is actually messing up the whole economy because they're being the biggest employers. Clearly, the staff who bribe and engage in corruption, they're getting tons of money under the table, which is not recorded anywhere. So they can spend that money because it's cash. It's always cash. And so you have this strange gap that is inexplicable. But being Kenyans, we can explain it because we see it. We see it happening all the time. There are people who create tolls on roads, collecting cash on a regular basis, even at Jomo Kenyatta Airport. Old taxis going through there have to pay like 1,000 shillings each time, each trip. So you can imagine how much money people are making, which is not recorded anywhere. And so there's great spending power. So we're basically a very corrupt environment, and it makes a lot of things very expensive for those people who are trying to just live on their income. So you find that now this push and pull factor will make a morally upright person corrupt just to be able to afford just a meal.
Basics.
Forget about anything else, the basics. So we really have to sort it out because it is so wrong for this country. It cannot move us forward. It impoverishes people totally. And therefore you have a society which is based on corruption and theft and heaven knows what else, which is not real. It can come crashing down any time.
Any moment.
Any moment. And it's the stuff revolutions are made of. When people find at the end of the day, the good people, we can't live. We can't survive.
That's very true. Thank you very much, Amani.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Let's take this quick break, but just to remind ourselves of behavior on our roads as we are using the roads.
Absolutely. To remember that we are all road users. All of us use them, whether we are walking, whether we are driving, whatever it is that we are doing. Very important to remember. Even as we then approach the roads, during this pandemic, we must protect ourselves, our loved ones, and our community. To prevent the spread of the coronavirus, remember to always wear your mask. And while using public means of transport, do not board a matatu or bus unless you are wearing a mask. usalama barabarani, fika salama.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
5 minutes to 10. So, from what Amani has said, there's all this, there's pressure to leave, and then there are those who have easy money who are also driving you out of market, because they're the ones who will drive the prices of residential prices up. They're the ones who are going to make it more difficult for you to be able to afford a meal from where you are. You just can't walk out and go into a nearest kiosk there and be able to afford a 50-bob meal. You'll find that in many of the places that you're finding a job, unless you go into this kibanda, which will be destroyed tomorrow by the city council authorities, if you go to any other proper establishment, it's going to be costly. Also because the cost of running that particular business is high. So
this is the thing. Is this a perceived ceiling? Or is it that, because we know that people, see, that's the thing. So then our businesses pandering to this perception or this aspiration as well, saying, okay, yeah, we know that people are going to find any means necessary to be able to afford this. So this is the ceiling that we're going to put. So it just seems to me like an unending circle, that we know that people are going to want this kind of lifestyle, and we know that we can make it a little bit more expensive because we know that they're aspiring to it, and they're gonna do it anyway.
I think business is just riding this wave.
Exactly.
Business is seeing
these guys. They will come.
Well, actually, if you look at the developed world, they understood this far better than we do, because what they do, they enable their citizenry to actually live on debt. They make it easy for you to borrow, very, very easy.
They encourage you to have a credit card at every turn, for example.
And they encourage you, because if it's a question of buying something, buying is easy, buying a newer model is easy, trading in this one it's easy.
Yep.
And remember, these are considered to be the universal standards for measuring success.
Yeah.
So who are you in a third world banana republic like ours
not follow suit,
and not to subscribe to these world standards of affluence?
So every ordinary citizen is basically living on deficit.
Yes, in a sense they are. Ask yourself this very simple question. Do you remember when in the US they had this huge real estate crisis? Massive, okay? Suddenly people couldn't pay. Suddenly, it was a long story. But if you look behind the story, what was interesting was where it began. We were looking at people were looking at focus on the crisis. Someone finds land which costs next to nothing. A friend of this person buys it at a price that one shouldn't be buying it at. Then a third other person buys it. So they are the ones who keep just raising these prices up. Then you put up this structure. And suddenly it's a place which has some serious value. Yet the real value of that particular piece of land never really changed. It's these people who sort of moved it up and up and up.
It just keeps moving.
Yes.
Yeah, because we've agreed. Okay.
Yes.
Look at the price. The cheapest vehicle today. Oh, at you know, brand new cars are those that have just come in to the port of Mombasa. That's a new car. Cheapest.
New car is number plate.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a 1600cc vehicle. How much is it going to cost you?
Not less
than 500,000 shillings and above.
Yes.
Imagine.
So.
And this is a vehicle that's 8 years old.
Yes.
7 years old.
And this is a vehicle that anyway. Yeah. So.
Everybody wants to say that they have a plot somewhere that they're going to look at.
And that is why people who sell these plots that only they know the existence of keep selling these plots. Because it then becomes a subject of conversation. I also own
a plot.
A plot.
I also live here.
Yes.
So.
I'm thinking of buying.
But you know, like the question that actually lingers in my mind, even as we're having this discussion, is do people take a cold stare at this situation and understand that it isn't real?
Everybody, I think, when they sit in their own corner, they can just feel it's not real. But then they cannot see the reality.
Or choose not to see the reality. Yeah,
confronting
say,
the
okay,
reality.
I know it's tough, but I'm just
Painful
going to
business,
continue
right?
like this. It's painful to confront it and say, actually, you know what, folks, stop the train and let's get off because you can't do this. It's not easy to be able to make that decision. It isn't. But you'll find again that those who have actually then able to shut out the noise
Those ones
and
are in
don't
Nirvana.
mind living this.
They're living in a very good place. City, today's proverb.
He who has never traveled, thinks his mother is the best cook in the world.
Kenyan proverb. Bas.
Facing Mount Kenya.
Bas. Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Yes, Dorcas Kamotho, I can see you. No. I see Mlihamia Malindi and we're just fine.
Nesawa.
Nesawa ende. Nimekusikia. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Kenya's biggest conversation. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and CT Muga wishing you a lovely day. You have uninterrupted music from now until 11, and then from 11 you have DJ Absolute and Yolanda. And they are Sugar and Spice. And then Quatch in the afternoon, 3 to 7. Keep it right here for that. Good morning. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life